Ramada room welcomes all. Thanks for stopping by, answering the call. Ups and downs are normal for some of us. Many days I beg to get off this life bus. Neon lights flicker, a shadow on the wall. Dreams on the ceiling, we run and then we fall. Sharing stories over paper cups. Wheels keep turning but never enough. Life's a ride on a rickety old track. Holding on tight, never looking back. In the rubber Ramada room we could fight. Laugh, cry, love in this crazy ride.
Well, hello. Yes, Mom missed me. Yes. That was the thing. She didn't see me this morning because I was over here in the corner on the computer for so long, and now she's chitty chatty and yeah, love her, gotta love her. Hey guys, welcome in Rubber Ramada room. Sheila here. It's been a day, guys. We've had trials, we've had hearings. Oh, well, thank you, William. I guess you're never here for the intro. Thank you, William. No, Katya, stop. There is nothing to be sorry about. You know what? It's a blessing to have this woman here with me. And I say that all the time. I love her. She's 85 years old and she's still kicking. We have good days, bad days, but you know what? She's still here. So we love them as long as we have them. So anyway, so I kind of went through and reviewed this day 3, and the ME starts back up. I hate how they start this trial every day. They just start in the middle of already the man's talking. And I'm like, dude, y'all should start at the very beginning, when the judge calls it to order or whatever, but they don't do that on this one. So I did kind of do a preview. The ME finishes his statements and stuff. And then it gets a little emotional because we get into victim impact statements. So I listened to a couple minutes of a couple of them, and they're pretty rough. So this is my big trigger warning. I'll give it again when we get closer to that. Yeah, so we do get into victim impact statements. And this was from a 2004 case. So these people have had this. I can't imagine they were already sentenced to death row, and then it got overturned. And so these people for these many years have been thinking this is all good and gone. It's behind us. And now because of the new laws that came into effect, they have to go through all this again and deal with all these emotions again. And so I haven't listened, and I'm sure it's going to be very hard for them. So that's my big trigger warning. We are on 1.25 speed, and we will jump through the brakes and all that fun stuff. So, all right, let's roll. Peace. Let's go.
Dr. Vulture, you testified that all 6 of the victims.
Oh, shebanks. I don't know. I was playing with the volume thing, but we're going to knock that shit off for a minute. That was too loud.
Victims were alive when they suffered the blunt force trauma. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Would the blunt force trauma have been painful for each of the victims?
Yes.
I'm going to show you an exhibit. I'm going to take it out and ask you to look at it.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
And I'm sorry, I don't think I announced on the record. This is case 25. If you could please pull the back. My question is the blunt force trauma that you saw for each of these 6 victims, is it consistent with it being caused by that back?
Yes, it is. I particularly like the width of this anterior surface here. We do have photographs with scale of the tram track injuries, and this matches up pretty well. I would be more bothered if this was like a bigger bat, like I guess this is a softball bat, and I'm not sure what type of bat it is. Sorry, I'm not a sports guy. But I know there are bats that are much larger, like for other sports, and that I think would leave a wider tram track. So this bat does look more consistent with those fairly narrow injuries that we have.
This
That's a
bat-
class
bat
pair,
like this.
bat like this, exactly. Can't say that bat, but something like that would most likely cause those injuries, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm now going to show you 620. My question is, and feel free to hold it, are the stab wounds, all of the stab wounds you saw on each of the 6 victims, is it possible that this knife could have caused all of those injuries?
Objection, judge calls for speculation.
Please approach.
And we go straight to static.
Wide blade, it's fairly thin. There are some very subtle micro striations on the blade, serrations, but very small. None of the wounds have any class characteristics of like a large axe or machete or anything like that. So this type of blade is consistent with that. Obviously, I can't tell you that this exact knife caused it. There's any number of knives in the world that look exactly like this. But this is possible.
Do you have an opinion as to whether all of the stab wounds were caused by one blade or multiple blades?
I do not.
Just one moment, please. No further questions, Judge. Mr. Wood, sir?
So I want to touch upon a few things that were asked of you yesterday, kind of at the beginning of your direct testimony. So you've testified to the jury that you did not conduct the autopsies for the 6 victims. That's correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And it was Dr. Thomas Beaver that did that?
That is correct.
And he was the medical examiner at the time for this.
That is correct.
Did you, prior to, well, let me ask it this way. The pictures that the jury has seen of the 6 victims on the 6 different boards, did you take those photographs?
I did not, no, sir.
And that was Dr. Beaver or his staff?
Yes, generally speaking, those pictures are taken in the presence of the pathologist with the autopsy tech present.
And yesterday, I believe you testified that in preparing for your testimony in this case, these cases, that you reviewed those photographs.
I did, yes, sir.
Is Dr. Beaver, to your knowledge, still alive?
As far as I know, yes.
And okay. Did you talk to Dr. Beaver before providing your testimony?
No, I have not spoken to him in any capacity.
And he is no longer a medical examiner in this circle.
That's correct.
Okay. So you talked about, well, let me ask you this way. So you talked yesterday, told the jury that you conducted 4,000 or 5,000 autopsies in the past. That's basically correct?
That is correct.
Okay. In the vast majority of those cases, would it be fair to say that you did when you did testify, let me rephrase kind of like a question. When you did testify as a forensic medical examiner, the majority of the time, you conducted the autopsies of those instances?
That is correct.
Would it be fair to say there was a small number of instances where you testified as a medical examiner where you did not partake or conduct the autopsies?
Yes, the total number is probably less than 40.
Okay. And would it be also fair to say that given the option of reviewing someone else's work and providing expert opinions versus actually doing the autopsy, would it be fair to say that you would like to have been the one that's done the autopsies?
I think that's generally preferable.
Okay. Would in terms of preparing for your opinion testimony in these 2 cases, did you rely mostly on the photographs that were received?
The photographs are the linchpin of my analysis in this case.
Okay. Let's talk about the individual victims. There's 4 that I want to talk to you about.
Yes, sir.
Anthony Vega. Do you know the order of the injuries that were occurring, Mr. Vega?
I do not know.
Um, do you have an opinion as to whether or not in Mr. Vega, the blunt force trauma that you went over with the jury, that occurred at the same time as the stabbings?
So, as described previously, the blunt trauma shows signs of contusion, active bleeding. I believe in all victims that the blunt trauma occurs first and the sharp trauma occurs after that. As you recall, the discussion of the stab wounds has always been perimortem or postmortem. Antemortem on these cases is all blunt trauma. So blunt trauma, then sharp trauma. My previous answer was I can't tell you which stab wound came first, but I'm quite confident all the blunt trauma occurs first in each decedent, and then the stab wounds occur. It could be seconds between them. I'm not saying minutes pass or anything, but the postmortem changes, the pictures do make it appear that the blunt trauma occurs first in all decedents.
This is a question that probably would carry over to the other victims as well.
Mhm.
But the blunt force trauma, let's focus on Mr. Vega for a second.
Yes.
The blunt force trauma that Mr. Vega's had, any one of those blows would have rendered him unconscious, would they not?
Potentially, yes. We do have defensive wounds, which imply some level of consciousness, but I can't tell you which blow occurred when and when unconsciousness would have occurred.
But the ones in the head would have caused unconsciousness?
They could have caused unconsciousness, depending on which one you're talking about. Yes, sir.
Um, and you do not know if more than one knife was used on Mr. Vega?
That's correct. The class characteristics of these wounds imply a non-serrated or micro-serrated blade. It's like I said, it's not a large cleaver. It's not an axe. There's no evidence of bony injury underneath these stab or incised wounds. But as far as separating it between all the other knives in existence that look about like that, I can't do that. So there's certainly a possibility multiple knives are used.
Okay. And would it, across all the victims, regarding the stab wounds, it's true that none of the stab wounds were fatal to any of the 6 victims?
So there are stab wounds that could have been fatal, but the blunt trauma trumped those. And those were the ones to the neck. Just for clarity's sake, it was the Francisco Roman's sharp force injuries to the neck are post-mortem, but had he been alive at that time, they would have killed him. It transects the carotid artery, the jugular, and a partial transection of the trachea. And then finally, the last decedent was the Erin Belanger, and she also has transection of the jugular veins and carotid. So those two have potentially fatal injuries to the neck, but because of the trauma, the neck wounds didn't matter.
So for clarity, none of these decedents died as a result of stab?
That is correct.
Now, were the majority of the stab wounds, the majority of the stab wounds were post-mortem for the 6 victims?
So I kind of have a count encircled there. We're probably 1/3 to probably 1/2 perimortem and the other half postmortem. There's a wide variety of ages represented here. So I would say 1/3 to 1/2 are perimortem and then the remainder. So I guess the slight majority are postmortem, but there are a significant number of perimortem.
Okay. Now, you were deposed in this case, weren't you?
That is correct.
All right. And your deposition, let me get the date, was in March of 2020, March 10th of 2023?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, in that deposition, and let me preface my question this way too. So, in that deposition, there was a prosecutor present,
Yes.
and there were defense attorneys present,
Yes.
and you were under oath,
Yes.
and there was a court reporter present.
Yes.
All right. And in that deposition, you said that all the injuries were to the victim or post-mortem.
I did not. I had several that were. So my count was 60 total stab wounds spread along victims. During that deposition, there were approximately 10, which I sent an email out to both defense and prosecution, suggesting that some of my postmortems probably should have been moved to the perimortem. That was about 10 of the 60. So once again, these are challenging decisions to make because we're talking about a blood pressure of 20/10 versus 0 to 0, not physiologic 120/80 blood pressure. So I did move some of them out, yes, but at no point did I say all the injuries were postmortem in the deposition. I had some perimortem there.
So, the email you referred to, you sent an email to Mr. Go.
I did, and Miss Thomas, Allison Thomas got a copy too, I think.
And that was after your deposition was taken,
That's correct.
after you were sworn to tell the truth.
That's correct.
And what led you to send that email to the state about your analysis of this evidence?
I was looking at the pictures and thinking about what I said and realized that I probably, in the interest of time and getting the deposition done, there were a couple that I moved into the postmortem that I probably should have called out and said were perimortem. Once I said about 10 out of the 60. So I felt like my initial analysis was probably incorrect.
Okay. And when did you, how long after your sworn deposition did you come to that?
I believe it was that evening or the next day. I was reviewing the photos and thinking that I probably should have called out a few of these as perimortem.
And have you ever, in your past involvement in autopsies, have you had occasion to change your testimony after that?
I have. Every now and then you'll say something, and in retrospect, you'll realize that when you're on kind of, I don't want to say the knife's edge, but when you're on a decision that's very difficult to make, sometimes you make it, and in retrospect, you decide I probably should have gone the other way on that particular one.
So let me jump out of the way. So let me also ask you with regard to can I have just a 5-minute break? I'm sorry, I need to pull up something.
No, you can't have a 5-minute break. You just got here. What did this guy just say?
We all could use one.
Another cup of coffee? No, you can't have a 5-minute break. You just got here. Is he really going to take a 5-minute break? How do I speed this man up?
No, it's no problem at all.
So you testified moments ago that you didn't know more than, based on your observation of the photographs you file, you can't say whether there was more than one knife that was used for the stab wounds on the victims.
That is correct. It could be multiple knives.
And the knife blade that Mr. Jones just showed you, it has some serrations to it?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. When I'm saying serrations, it's like a steak knife has a grooves or the bumps on it.
Yes, there's multiple types of serrations in the knife industry. These are much finer and smaller. Traditional striations are wider, like on a bread knife or even a large hunting knife. You'll have that towards the hilt of the blade. These are a micro serration, so they do cut a bit more like an unserrated knife.
Could you tell on the okay. Could you tell on the other victims whether the stab wounds were all used with a serrated knife?
So I can tell you that on the skin surface, there are no injuries consistent with a large, remember I said there are two types of serrations, a large serrated knife. There's no evidence on the skin surface that it was used. With that said, for those injuries to occur to the skin surface, the blade has to be twisted on the way out or the way in to injure the skin. So if it plunges in cleanly and out, you may not have those serrations. When you have the serrations and they're obvious, it's easy to say, yes, it was a serrated knife. When you don't have them, it's kind of a toss-up. So I would say that in a general sense, given the number of wounds, it's probably more likely than not a micro-serrated or a non-serrated blade, not a large serrated blade.
With regard to Mr. Gleason, there were superficial cuts on his neck?
Yes. Yes.
Again, those wounds were not caused.
Correct.
Okay. So, And then, well, Mr. Gonzalez, Roberto Gonzalez.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Gleason, again, the blunt force trauma to the head could have caused instantaneous unconsciousness.
It certainly could have, depending on which blows occurred first.
And again, okay. So moving forward to Mr. Gonzalez, then, his stab wounds would have been postmortem.
We have some perimortem and some postmortem. Stab wounds to the left chest called out as perimortem, the abdomen postmortem. I have a few circled on the chest as perimortem. They are medial to the nipple. And also there's 5 on the abdomen that I have called out around the umbilicus, the belly button, that are perimortem, but there are quite a few postmortem as well. So a mixture, probably half and half.
And in that same deposition I referred to on March 10th, and I'm referring to page 74.
Okay.
Do you have a copy I can provide? One?
I do have one. I've got to get to the right page though here. 74. That might not be the right one. Hold on. 74. All right, go ahead.
All right, and I'm looking specifically at the lines 9 through 13.
Okay.
All right. Did you not say in your sworn deposition that all of the injuries, referring to stab wounds, the sharp wounds, were postmortem?
I did, yes.
But today you're saying that some are now perimortem.
Correct.
Okay. And is this part of the group that you contacted the state about after your deposition
That is correct.
and then changed it to perimortem for some of them?
Some, not all.
Now, again, perimortem is someone is in the process of dying. It's a close to death.
That is correct. The definition is close to dying.
And some referring to Mr. Gleason, some of the stab wounds could have occurred as much as 10 minutes after that.
That is possible. Once it's post-mortem, I really can't tell you when it occurred.
And that's because the heart stopped pumping, there's no active bleeding. That's
Correct. There's no vital reaction to the skin and tissues underlying, so you can't tell.
Regarding Miss Nathan, Michelle Nathan.
Yes.
Her stab wounds were post-mortem?
Hold on. Let me see what I wrote down. Nathan. Yeah. So on her, we do have mostly post-mortem. I did not change anything on that. And I believe I was fairly consistent with her that all of them were post-mortem.
Okay. And then, so with regard to her injuries, she, regarding the blunt force trauma,
Yes.
she could have been rendered unconscious with even the first blow to the head.
That is possible, yes.
So, and since you've determined that the stab wounds on Miss Nathan were post-mortem, those stab wounds would have occurred after the blunt force trauma to the head, right?
That is my opinion, yes.
And so with regard to Miss Nathan, once she became unconscious to a blow to the head, she would not have been capable of speaking. Is that correct?
That is my opinion. If the first blow did render her unconscious, I'm not saying that did happen, but if it did happen, then she would not be speaking, yes.
And once she was unconscious, there would be no way that possible that Miss Nathan could have said the words, "Please don't kill me."
That is correct, if she were unconscious.
That's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, doctor.
Ma'am.
I'm Beth Sammons. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting. I represent Troy Victorino.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm not going to belabor all of this for very much longer, but I just kind of want to clear it up. You made it very clear that in deposition, you said that some of the stab wounds, the majority of them were post-mortem,
That's right.
and you changed your opinion pretty quickly after that, right?
Yes.
And you corrected that opinion and you told everybody about it.
Yes, I realized I'd made a mistake and corrected it.
Certainly. So I think because you made a mistake and because you're relying on photos, would you agree with me, and I think you've said it several times, calling a perimortem and calling it post is a close call.
Close call, yes.
And in particular, in this case, obviously it was a very close call for you because you prepared for that deposition
Yes, it was a close call.
and you prepared for testimony
That is correct.
and you reviewed the same photos.
I did.
And in one moment you felt one way and in one moment you felt another.
That is correct. It's a
Okay.
judgment call.
So this is very, very close line that could have a differing of opinions depending on who's looking at these photos.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Because perimortem, as you said, by its definition is near death.
That is correct.
Perimortem could be seconds from death.
That is correct.
Very low blood pressure.
That is correct.
Blood is not, coming or hemorrhaging into the wound.
That is correct.
So they would likely be unconscious.
Yes, most likely.
Yes. And unconsciousness, once again, we've talked about unconsciousness. You are not aware of what is happening.
That is correct.
That's the definition of it. You have no consciousness.
Correct.
You are not feeling pain in that manner.
Once you're unconscious, yes, you would not feel pain.
Once you're unconscious, you're not feeling pain. So all of these are perimortem or postmortem, where the infliction of pain and the feeling of pain are not happening.
For the stab wounds, yes.
Thank you. As far as I think, and this kind of goes for all. I'm going to go through specific victims in a moment, very briefly. But you gave several examples, I think, for all of these decedents. The injuries that you observed were similar almost to a motorcycle crash
That is correct.
or a person falling from a building.
That's correct.
You'd agree, though, that those examples are single impact.
They are, yes.
This is multiple impacts, correct?
That is correct.
And of course, even in those single impacts with that type of injury, you'd expect them to be rendered unconscious by that single impact.
A single impact, yes.
In those examples that you provided.
That is correct.
And once again, consciousness is tied to awareness and pain.
That is correct.
I want to go to Mr. Roman.
Yes,
And of course, Mr. Roman, you indicated, I believe, 5 to 6 impacts.
that's correct.
Some of them, obviously, some of them were very severe hinge fractures.
Yes,
Any one of those impacts could have caused unconsciousness.
that is correct.
But overall, you'd agree with Mr. Roman that his injuries were close in time to one another, the impacts.
I think you'd have to define that. I can't tell you. Based on the appearance, I would say they're generally at or near the same time, but I can't break it down into seconds or maybe a minute. I can't be
course.
that exact.
Well, no, because you weren't there.
I weren't there. Yeah, I
Yes.
was definitely not
You
there.
were not there.
I
So
wasn't there.
you-
Sorry.
You can't reconstruct what occurred here with an autopsy.
Yeah. We could just say that the appearance of the injuries appear similar in age.
They appear similar in age, meaning they could be in close succession to one another.
That is correct.
And especially considering that there's postmortem sharp force injuries, which are the stab wounds that were postmortem, you would consider that to be, that would have all occurred within the same event.
Could you?
I know I said that a little weird. Once again, it's morning, but the postmortem injuries
Okay.
occurred in the same time frame as the blunt force injuries, because you indicated, I believe, that there was perimortem as well.
Yeah. So yeah, the perimortem is very easy to say. There's a head injury. You are dying. It takes several minutes to die with these injuries due to the bleeding in the brain. And then there's a stab wound that's at that time. The postmortem, however, it's been my opinion that once you get past that certain point and there's no vital reaction, it could be a minute or several minutes or 10 minutes. I can't really tell you.
I think I want to kind of clarify that a little bit, because you said it could take several minutes to die from these impact injuries to the head.
So you might be unconscious quickly, but yeah, you might take a few minutes to die depending on the severity. Some of these decedents you might expect to die a little quicker, but some of them might take a little longer. Yes.
So you're indicating, because I think that, I believe, did you review your deposition?
I did.
I believe that you characterized most of these injuries, and some of them much more fast than others, and we'll get to those individuals, but that it would have,
Can you slow down just a little bit for us?
but that it would have been within a matter of a minute or two.
Yeah, a minute or two is reasonable. If we're saying a minute, 2 minutes, that would be reasonable. Yes.
But unconsciousness could be immediate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, his injuries, especially those blunt force injuries to his head, you're not coming back from that. He would have been rendered unconscious and died.
Yes, in all decedents, these injuries are quite significant.
Every single one is an incredibly catastrophic injury that would cause immediate unconsciousness and quick death?
I would not say every single one. There are some, particularly the orbit, the face, the jawbone. So the ones that break the calvarium, the skull, create basilar skull fractures, yes. Many of the victims do have injuries to the face lower down where those might not create unconsciousness. So I would not say all impacts would cause unconsciousness. That's not correct.
And but in Mr. Roman's case, going back to Roman, because we're not finished yet, there was fracturing of his frontal sinuses, correct?
That is correct.
You would expect to see aspirated blood, would you not, if you were alive at the time that occurred?
So, Madam Court Reporter, are you having a hard time taking this? I just a little bit slower. She's having a hard time. Ms. Samuels, and
Yes,
we
yes,
have to
ma'am.
have a good record. Thank you.
Understood. Would you expect to see aspirated blood if he were alive at the time of the impact to his frontal sinuses?
Possibly, yes. I wouldn't say absolutely. That blood would have to get there through the basilar skull fractures, or potentially the damage to the teeth. So it is possible, but I don't think I can say absolutely one way not.
But you do not see aspirated blood in
We
Mr.
did not,
Roman.
no, we did not.
So that's not present here.
It's not present, correct.
Moving on to Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes,
I believe that Mr. Wood did already discuss Mr. Gonzalez with you.
he did.
However, would you agree that in Mr. Gonzalez's case, his death was quicker than the others? I can refer you to your deposition if you need to refresh your recollection.
Yeah, do that. What,
Page 97.
97? Which one was that? Inflicted, there's contusion. Page 97. I'm not sure what line you're referring to, where I said he was dead faster than everyone else.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I have the wrong page. It's 99. I apologize for that, sir.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did say that. So you would think there would have been a significant amount of breathing. There'd been more blood in the airways. So I presume this person probably died quicker than the others. Yes.
Because of what we just talked about, there was no blood in the airways. He would not breathing any blood at the time of these impacts.
That is most likely, yes.
Yes. So in your indication, he would have, that's what your opinion was when you were deposed.
That's correct.
I think even in page 92, if you need to refresh, you said that his death would have been in seconds.
Yeah, depending on when those injuries occurred to the skull. But yeah, if you assume that those injuries occurred at or near the same time with the depression of the frontal bone, as we saw, and in that case, yes, you would be seconds
Would
with
be
that
seconds.
injury.
So we're talking about consciousness and death being quick for Mr. Gonzalez. You would agree with that?
Yes, given those injuries.
Moving on to Ms. Belanger. Let
Okay,
me know when you're ready. Thank you.
go ahead.
I think you would indicate that I just want to clarify, because we've talked so much about postmortem and perimortem, her stab wounds were all postmortem.
That is correct.
And once again, she had no aspirated blood, which you would expect if she lived for any significant period of time.
That is correct.
And her defensive wounds, I think that you characterized in deposition as not as significant as the others.
Yeah, there's contusions and abrasions, but I do not feel like they're as dramatic as some of the other individuals.
And once again, the blows to her head would have been catastrophic, no coming back from that.
Correct.
And it would have been death within a minute or two,
That is correct.
and immediate unconsciousness with some of those very severe blows.
With the severe blows, yes.
Mr. Gleason, I want to talk to you about a little bit.
Okay.
Mr. Gleason, in your opinion, you cannot say if the blows to his head came from behind him or in front of him.
That is correct.
And once again, he had a sinus fracture with no bleeding in his lungs.
There is a hinge fracture, which would have gone through the sinuses, and yes, there's no hemorrhage in the lungs.
Indicating he was not breathing at the time of that fracture. Breathing in blood.
So there's hemorrhage in the fracture space. So there would have been, he was alive when the fracture occurred. I think what you're asking is, did he breathe in blood after the fracture? And
Yes.
that is correct. But during the fracture, there was blood present in the wound.
But you didn't see any foamy blood fluid in his respiratory tract,
That is correct.
which indicates that this was very quick as well.
Yes, yes, could have been quick with that blow.
There's no evidence of any blood deep into his lungs.
That is correct.
And once again, this basilar skull fracture that was inflicted upon him would have been catastrophic.
Yes, these injuries are very significant in him.
And once again, that could cause instant unconsciousness
It could, yes.
and a quick death.
It could, yes.
Just give me one moment, please. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Gleason.
Thank you, ma'am.
No redirection.
All right, thank you. And may he be excused or released. Yes. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
State's next witness.
State calls Emily Baran.
Okay, I don't know if y'all saw her walk through there, but that was so cute. And her little green outfit and her little backpack. She's just cute as pie. I want to squeeze her. And a pink shirt. Look at her when she turned around.
All right, thank you.
What a
Good morning.
cutie.
Good morning. Mr. Donis?
Thank you, Judge. Good morning.
Good morning.
Take a moment to set up and let me know when you're ready, okay?
Thank you.
Oh, and we have another unruly camera. My lord.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Emily Booth Varan. That's Booth. Varan, V as in Victor, Aran.
And you speak kind of softly. You could try to raise your voice or bring that microphone closer to you. Hopefully it's clear.
Okay. Yes.
What is your occupation?
I'm a senior crime laboratory analyst for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in the Forensic Biology DNA section.
Can you please describe your education, training, and employment history for the jury?
Yes, I have a bachelor's of science in forensic science from the University of Central Florida with a double minor in chemistry and molecular biology. My last year of college, I performed a year-long internship with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And upon graduating from college, I was hired by them in 1996, and I have been in the biology DNA section for the last 29 years.
Have you given instruction on DNA?
I have. I was an adjunct professor at the University of Central Florida where I taught conventional serology classes.
Do you belong to any professional associations?
I belong to the American Academy of Forensic Scientists and the Southern Association of Forensic Scientists.
Is it part of your job to regularly read the scientific literature in the area of DNA?
Yes, every year we have to have continuing education to make sure that we're current on what's out there. So as part of our requirements for our lab to be certified, we are expected to stay up on new technology, go to meetings, things of that nature.
Have you been qualified before today to offer opinion testimony in DNA?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times?
It's over 130 times. I quit counting.
What circuits? Just if you could name a few circuits in the state of Florida.
Many circuits in Florida, Central Florida agencies, as well as North Florida agencies. I've testified in Key West. I've testified in military court all throughout the state of Florida.
Tell the jury, what is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's the genetic blueprint of life, and it is determined at conception. You get half of your DNA from your mother, half from your father, and you have a unique DNA profile that is unique to you, and an identical twin if you have one. So DNA is unique to you, but if you have an identical twin, they would have the same identical DNA.
What types of DNA testing are there?
Well, there's various methods, but we use short tandem repeats in forensic DNA testing, and that is a form of polymerase chain reaction. It's been used since the mid-90s and it's being continued to be used.
How is it different from mitochondrial testing?
Mitochondrial DNA testing, we don't do that kind of testing in our lab because it's really prone to contamination, and the standards for setting up a mitochondrial lab are a little bit different, and it's not always needed. But mitochondrial DNA testing can be very good if we're not able to get results because they can do something in their skill set that we're not capable of.
What do you mean prone to contamination?
Mitochondrial DNA testing, the lab has to be set up in a certain way to prevent contamination, meaning the most obvious type of contamination would be handler to evidence. Like I have to take precautions when I work with evidence. I have to wear a disposable gown, tie-back gown, hairnet, gloves, and change repeatedly so that I don't contaminate the evidence with my own DNA. So that's what I mean by contamination. You just have to be very stringent to make sure you're not contaminating.
So FDLE just doesn't do mitochondrial DNA testing, but other labs do it.
Yes, and in this particular case, I had to send out some evidence to another private lab that did mitochondrial DNA testing so that it could be used.
In this particular case, what type of DNA testing did you do?
I did short tandem repeat, or STRs is the acronym.
What are population frequencies and how are they used in your field?
In population genetic frequencies, each of the markers that I look at are the genetic markers that we're looking at in forensics to compare unknown samples to known standards in the case, have individual frequencies. In population genetics, we can use that to apply some kind of weight. If I get a match to an item, if one unknown profile matches somebody involved in the case, what does that match mean? And the way that I'm able to use population frequencies is I'm able to use each individual frequency of each marker and then multiply those together to get a statistic of how common or rare that profile would be in the population so that I can know, is it a rare occurrence or is it common?
What is serology?
Serology is the study of bodily fluids.
What is forensic biology?
Forensic biology is just a term to incorporate serology, the identification of bodily fluids, as well as DNA testing in the discipline.
Are there limits to DNA testing?
Yes. With medical samples, like when you go to get a blood drawn in a hospital to get all these tests done to see if you have a disease or to see what's wrong with you, they're taking a pristine sample. They've got as much blood as they can get out of you. But in crime scenes, you're restricted to what is left, what is on physical evidence, what's left behind. And in Florida, we have environmental factors that can break down or degrade DNA, such as a hot Florida summer, a lot of rain, UV light, things of that nature. And you are limited by the amount of stain that is deposited on an item. We can't control that. So I don't have unlimited supplies of a known sample to test like you would if you went to a hospital and they got poked with a needle repeatedly.
What are the different results that are possible for your testing?
Well, I can get a result. I can get a single source profile, which means, oh, we have an unknown person here. Or I can get a partial profile, which is still information, it's just less information because the sample was degraded or was scarce. I can get no results, and I can get results that indicate more than one person, which we call a mixture. So if I see a profile that indicates more than one person, that is what we call a mixture. So it means more than one person deposited their bodily fluids on that stain.
Is your lab certified?
Yes, it is.
Do you undergo proficiency testing?
I do.
Was your lab certified back when this crime occurred in 2004?
Yes, we've been certified since the early 1990s.
Tell the jury, what is a chain of custody and how is it maintained in your lab?
A chain of custody is, for a better word, it is a way of tracking evidence the minute it comes into the laboratory in a sealed condition, because in order for us to take evidence from local local law enforcement agencies, it needs to be in a sealed condition so that I know that this evidence was not tampered with. So in order for it to come into the laboratory, it first has to be collected by people from the local law enforcement agencies. They need to document and put into containers and seal it with their initials to make sure that it is kept in an uncompromised condition. So that is what is meant by the chain of custody. And when it comes into the laboratory, we get a unique FDLE case number, an identifying number, and it is tracked through the system and locked when it is not being tested.
Can anything make DNA change?
DNA is not going to change into something else. It's, if anything, it's just going to degrade over time, depending upon this, the amount of sample and such. But it's not like DNA is going to magically appear, change its mind and turn into something else. It is what it is. It just depends on how much information we're able to get from unknown samples.
We're going to now turn to this case. Were you involved in the testing of evidence in this case?
Yes, I was.
Approximately how many items in total did you analyze for these murders?
It was over 250 items.
Over 250?
Yes,
Were some of those items labeled as being recovered from the Telford home,
yes,
from the Fort Smith home,
yes,
and from the White Expedition?
yes.
We're not going to discuss most of them today. But we are going to discuss a few, okay?
Okay,
Did you receive DNA standards for the 4 suspects in this case?
I did.
And that would be Victorino, Hunter, Salas, and Cannon,
Yes,
and also for the 6 victims in this case.
yes.
Tell the jury, what is a standard?
A standard is a DNA reference standard is a sample that is taken from people involved in the case. It can be blood, it could be hair, it could be saliva, oral swabs from inside someone's mouth. And basically, I'm running the same type of testing that I would run on unknown samples on these reference standards to generate a table of information for each of the people involved, their reference standard. So I know what their DNA looks like as far as what we're looking at in forensic DNA testing.
Were you able to get a full profile for each of those standards for the 6 victims and for the 4 defendants?
Yes,
Did you then take those profiles and compare them with any DNA you were able to obtain from the various items of evidence that you were asked to analyze?
I did.
I want to talk about a pair of lugs boots, size 12. They are already in evidence. I'm going to give you the item, and as we discuss them, if it would assist you,
Yes.
please hold them out and show to the jury what you're talking about, okay?
Okay.
This is states 32. May I approach the witness? You may.
I'm still trying to get the gloves on, sorry.
Do you need bigger ones?
Yes, please.
Sure. And it looks like they made some paper maybe coming off, so you can use this as a tray.
Oh, thank you.
if need to.
Thank you. Thank you.
And here's some bigger ones. Do you have what you need?
I do.
These gloves. I'll leave it here just in case you need to change any.
It's just hard to put gloves on sweaty hands. I feel like Mickey Mouse.
Not easy. If you need a tissue to wipe your hands up, you know.
Okay. 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 I'm ready.
First, I'd like to start with, do you recognize that item?
I do.
Tell the jury, how do you recognize it?
I recognize them by my handwriting as well as the FDLE case number and my initials.
And have you previously given testimony about that exact package and those exact boots?
Yes.
If you could, please walk the jury through your processing of the boots and your results.
Yes. May I take them out of the package?
Please do. And if you want to use that tray, the box top, you're welcome to.
Yes. So when I first got these boots, I wanted to know who could possibly be the wearer of the boots. And I took a cotton zip swab and moistened it with sterile water, and I swabbed inside each of the boots, the toe area and around where you get a lot of friction, where I expected skin cells to be. And I performed DNA testing for wear on the boots. I also looked at them visually for the presence of background staining, and I was able to get positive chemical indications on the boots. And so I labeled them and gave them the stain numbers so that I could over-test them. And I had to use disposable scalpels to get the stains or cut out the stains for each of the testing. So that's what you see as far as the scuff marks or the missing pieces. It's because I was cutting out the stains. And you can see that they're really small stains on some of them. Some of them were just drops, and then others were a little more concentrated. We'll get to that.
And next, I'm going to show you some boards. Did you create some charts to assist in explaining the DNA results for these boots?
I did.
If you could just stand up and take a look at the photographs.
Yes.
Yes.
This represents that.
Okay, so there are 4 boards here. They all accurately depict your findings in this case?
Yes.
Is there any objection from council?
No objection. No objection.
So admitted.
The first one is states X. Next is states Y for ID. It's gonna be all four. Okay. States 68. Next will be states Z for identification. That is 861. Next one will be, it's AA. This will be state seven. If there's no objection, I can move in the rest of her exhibits.
No objection.
I have 3.
No objection.
So admitted.
Next will be BB. This will be state 71. Next is CC. State 73. Next is DD. 73. State 73. Thank you. Ms. Moran, what would be easiest for you? Are you able to just use your charts and boots, or will you need your notes?
I have what you have, what's in my notes, my reports, so I could just go back and forth.
Okay, what I can do then is I'll leave it up here so that you can sit down and use your notes, and then
That
you
would be
can
wonderful.
stand up when you need to. And we should have a pointer for you. That will make it easier for you, okay?
Sure, thank you.
So we're still talking about the lugs boots.
Yes.
If you could walk us through your testing. And if you want to start with a board, whichever board is going to be easiest for you to start with. Okay, so we're going to discuss where, so if you can just want to state for the record, that's state 67 is being published. Okay, how's that? All right.
And so what this is this is the table of information I was telling you about earlier. We create DNA reference standard profiles for people involved in the case so we can compare them against unknown samples to see if there can be any conclusions drawn. This is Mr. Victorino's profile, his DNA profile for forensic purposes. And when I swabbed the inside of these boots for wearer, I got a profile of a mixture, and I need to read directly from my report so I don't misspeak.
And as you're getting ready to do that, tell the jury, what is, when you say where, is it just what you're saying to try to determine who's wearing the
Yeah,
shoes?
as I was originally talking about earlier, I swabbed inside these shoes for possible wearer, because we wear shoes, we would expect to find our DNA profile in our shoes or sneakers, especially if it's sweaty over time. So anyway, I compared Mr. Victorino's profile against the wearer results of the shoe, and he was the major contributor, the major profile to the wearer results. But it was indications of a mixture, but he was the major contributor.
So does that mean there was a mixture?
Yes, there was a mixture.
And we see in the middle column, there's some black and some red. What does that mean?
I just tried to make it easier for a visual. This is a mixture. When I told you there was more information than one person, there's indications for us that this is 2 or more individuals, which is why you see extra pairs of numbers or more numbers listed here. But I did the font in red on the mixture so that the jury could follow his profile all the way down the wearer of the shoe. And he was the major profile that I could pull out from this mixture. So it is consistent with him being the wearer of the Lux boots.
And I see you just had Mr. Victorino, his DNA up here, but did you compare the wearer DNA that you were able to retrieve from the inside of the blood tubes with all of the known reference samples?
Yes, but it was him.
Okay, understood. Does that cover everything with this board?
Yes.
So now you tested trying to find mirror DNA. What is the next step that you take? And I'm going to put up 68, say 68.
Well, we talked about earlier, I was looking at the shoes visually for red brown staining, and I did find chemical indications on the boots. So then I started marking up the boots and labeling them with the various stains that I just showed you a few minutes ago and performed DNA testing on those stains.
What were the results?
For this particular one, this represents the right boot and the left boot. There were two stains on them. Gloves back on, sorry. U3LE is the stain right here. And that matched Erin Belanger as her book. Q3 right B, there was a stain here. That was Erin Belanger's blood too. And that is exactly what this is showing, so you don't forget. Q3LE, the stain I just showed you, that's Erin. And Q3RB right here, that stain is Erin.
Thank you. Does that cover everything with this board?
Yes.
Now going to publish state 69. You could continue telling us about your results.
Yes.
What are we looking at here on the board?
We are looking at the left boot stain C. It's really small stain. And it was really a small stain, so I was only able to look at some of the markers because it was so scarce. But at those markers, if I may read from my report,
Please.
The DNA profile obtained from this exhibit demonstrated the presence of a mixture of at least 2 individuals. The DNA profile of the major contributor could be determined at 5 of the 9 loci tested or markers tested. And this partial DNA profile matches the DNA profile of Anthony Vega.
You mentioned a new word, loci. Tell the jury what that is.
Loci means location or for the genetic markers. It's just the place on our markers.
Does that cover everything here on this board?
Yes.
I'm now going to publish states 70. You could use this to continue telling us about your results.
Yes. So this is for stain E3LA, and it's that bigger stain that I was talking about earlier. Anyway, when I performed DNA testing on that, if I may read from my report, just so I don't misquote myself.
She is actually humming while she is looking for this.
Oh, here we go.
That is her humming.
The DNA profile obtained from this exhibit demonstrated the presence of a mixture of 2 or more individuals. The DNA profile of the major contributor could be determined. The DNA profile of the major contributor to this mixture matches the DNA profile of Francisco Ayo-Roman. So basically, this mixture, I'm showing you the people that could not be excluded, so to speak, the people involved in this case. And Mr. Roman was the major contributor in this mixture of that stain.
So is it your opinion that Francisco Roman's blood is on that left boot?
Yes.
And how about the minor contributors?
Yes. The DNA profiles for the minor contributors cannot be conclusively determined. However, Roberto Gonzalez and Anthony Vega cannot be excluded as possible contributors to this mixture.
So you were able to exclude all of the other known profiles you had. You could not exclude Gonzalez and Vega.
Correct.
And is that illustrated here on the board?
Yes. Like I said, for the major contributor, I did it in a different font so you could see, but their profiles could not be excluded as being a potential part of that mixture.
Based on your scientific tests that you performed on those boots, is it consistent with defendant Victorino wearing these boots someplace where Erin Belanger, Francisco Ayo-Roman, Anthony Vega, and Roberto Gonzalez shed blood?
Yes.
Does that cover all of your DNA testing on the boots?
Yes, it does.
The next item that I would like to discuss with you are Nike Air shoes.
Okay.
Those are already in evidence. It's going to be states 31. We're going to go through the same process, just to be sure.
Yes.
You can take a look at the exhibit and let us know if you recognize the exhibit, what's in the exhibit, and if so, how.
I recognize the evidence, and I also recognize by my FDLE case number, my initials.
I placed up here, I published state 73.
May I take these out?
Please.
Okay.
Using the board, thank you, Mr. King. Using the board here and the shoes, whichever is best for you, explain your testimony for the jury. Walk us through how you processed these, and your results.
When I got these shoes, I noticed that they had a really strong smell of laundry detergent. There's not a forensic test for doing laundry, but I've done laundry my whole life. It's my chore. I still do it. I don't want my husband touching my stuff. But this smelled freshly laundered. I swabbed the inside of the shoes to try to determine possible wearer of the shoes. However, I got no results, which if they've been laundered, I'm not surprised.
Why?
Because if shoes are submerged in water, and that's going to degrade and dilute the DNA. And we talk about environmental factors like rain, water, UV light, sunlight, humidity, degrading DNA.
Okay. So now walk us through what you were able to observe on them.
Well, the tags are gone, which is why I have the pictures here. But I saw red-brown staining on the tongues of the shoes where the washing instructions used to be. And the red-brown stain gave chemical indications of blood. So I took that on for DNA testing.
Okay.
And that would be Q35A, the left tongue of the shoe.
And what were your results?
Analysis of exhibit Q35, tongue of left shoe, gave chemical indications for the presence of blood. They demonstrated the mixture of two or more individuals. The DNA profile of the major contributor matches the DNA profile of Anthony Vega.
Anthony Vega. Okay.
Yes.
And is that demonstrated there on your board?
It is. You see this mixture on the left shoe? Again, and I have Mr. Vega's profile for your reference, and I have him in a bluish color so that you can see how he appears all the way out through the mixture. And then Miss Nathan, I wasn't able to exclude, so I included her profile as well.
Okay. And when you say you couldn't exclude Miss Nathan, does that mean you did test it against all of the other known profiles and you were able to exclude everyone except Mr. Vega, of course, and Michelle Nathan?
Correct. So with hers, I couldn't exclude her So she's possibly present.
And why is that?
Because the sample is so dilute as far as providing additional information of the minor contributors. The statistics that I used for the mixture on this gave a very low statistical weight to it. It shows that she's possibly there, but I can't for sure say.
And how about, that was the left tongue, correct?
That was the left tongue, yes.
How about the right tongue for the mediation?
Okay. The DNA profile obtained from the tongue of the right shoe demonstrated the presence of a mixture of 2 or more individuals. And Roberto Gonzalez cannot be excluded as a possible contributor to this mixture. So that is the only thing that I could say about the tongue of the right shoe, is he can't be excluded. I'm not sure if he's there or not. It's inconclusive.
Understood. So the other 9 people, though, you were able to exclude, it was Mr. Gonzalez you weren't able to exclude.
Correct.
And is that demonstrated here on the exhibit?
Yes, it is. I show you the profile, the mixture profile for the tongue of the right shoe with Mr. Gonzalez's profile so that you can see that he is possibly present there.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you. Does that cover all of your testing on these shoes? We're going to discuss the shoelaces of the shoes.
Yes.
Okay. And while we're talking about it, I see a number here, exhibit Q35. Is that referenced on the different exhibits? What is that number? Where does it come from?
It's an agency number, Q35. It's just an exhibit number. Because there were so many items in this case that you have to start somewhere, 1 through 200 and something.
Certainly. When you received these shoes, did they have laces in them?
No.
I'm now going to show you a couple of exhibits. I'm going to show you states 34 and states 35. And just ask you, I'm going to show you first states 34, ask you if you recognize it. If you need to open it up to do so, please do.
I don't. It's, I recognize it by my FDLE case number initials, and I can feel the Petri dish in here, so I know what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then just stick it right back in this envelope. Yeah. And then showing you states 35, same question. Do you recognize it?
I do,
How?
by my FDLE case number initials on the Petri dish.
And are these the shoelaces that you tested in this case?
Yes, it is.
Or some of them, you probably tested other shoelaces. Please walk the jury through how you processed these shoelaces and your results.
Okay. Well, like anything with physical evidence that I get in, I look at the item for possible red-brown stains that could be chemical indications of blood. And if it were positive, then I would take it on for DNA testing. But if it was a scarce amount, then I would have to, I believe this is the one that I updated for mitochondrial DNA testing.
And what were your results?
That's a really good question because I'm not sure what page of my report this is on.
Take your time.
Okay, thank you.
You know the Q1 number, right? It's Q1A and Q1B. I don't know if that will assist you.
Thank you.
You must have a lot of notes to go through. She could have told her a page or something.
We can take our mid-morning break now.
Certainly. All right, let's do that. We're going to take a 15-minute break.
Okay,
Please don't
let's do
discuss the
that.
case amongst yourselves or anyone else. No independent research. We'll see you back here in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Zoom, 15 minutes. We can do that. Okay. I can handle that. Bring the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. My apologies. This morning, I forgot to ask you what I ask you every morning. Has anyone been exposed to any media, any news, anything online about the case at all? No? Thank you very much. Mr. Gonis, you may
Thank you,
proceed.
Judge. I believe where we left off is I was asking you to walk us through your processing and results of the shoelaces that you've already identified.
Yes, when we're talking about the shoestring, 2 shoestrings collected from the residence of Fort Smith. And when I looked at them, there were red-brown staining that gave me chemical indications for the presence of blood. So I DNA tested each of the shoestrings, and on,
If you could speak up just a little bit.
oh, sure. So I did chemical indications. I got chemical indications for the possible presence of blood on the shoestrings. So I did DNA testing on each of them. And on one of the shoestrings, I did not get any results. And on the other shoestring, it was inconclusive or not interpretable. So basically just a hot mess. So those 2 shoestrings, I updated for mitochondrial DNA testing since I couldn't gather any information from them.
Okay, so you got chemical indications for the presence of blood, but there wasn't enough blood for you to do anything with? Is that what you're saying?
It was a very scarce sample, so there wasn't a lot of testing material.
And you mentioned that these shoes smelled like laundry. Anything about these shoelaces?
I don't really recall the shoelace smelling. I don't recall that. I just remember the Nike Air shoes smelling like laundry detergent.
Okay. And so then you're saying you sent them off to another lab for the mitochondrial DNA testing?
Yes,
Was that LabCorp?
yes,
Let's turn now to the hair from the bat.
yes.
That's already in evidence, dates 33. I'm going to show that to you and ask you if you identify it.
I do. The FDLE case number and my initials and the exhibit number.
And is that, excuse me, is that one of the hairs that you examined and tested in this case?
Yes,
And that was, I know you don't know, but it was labeled as being recovered from a bat.
yes.
If you could please walk the jury through your processing and results of that hair.
Yes. On the hair, I would attempt to take the root material and perform DNA testing on that hair. However, I was not able to get any results from that hair, so I also updated that for LabCorp as well.
So you sent it off for possible mitochondrial DNA testing?
Yes, because 20 years ago, that was what we did. That was the next best step.
I now want to move on to bats. Did you receive 4 baseball bats, aluminum baseball bats in this case?
I did.
And did you prepare some exhibits to help explain your results to the jury?
I did.
I have 2 here. You tell me if you have a preference where we start and let me know, okay?
Let's start with Q1, please.
Yes. I'm going to put up states 71, which is also Q1 from FDLE. And if you could, please walk us through your results. If at any time you want to refer to the board, please do so.
I will. Thank you. When I first got these bats into my possession, they were wrapped in electrical tape. And because I knew that this is potential latent prints material, I did my best not to disturb the bats that I tested so that I wouldn't ruin it for the examiner who would be looking for latent prints. So I did general rubbings on filter paper to test for the chemical indications of blood. And on this bat, I was able to get chemical indications of blood at the edge of the bat, not the handle.
And I know we're talking about a particular bat and we're going to discuss another one, but were you examining each of the 4 bats in the same manner?
Yes, individually I examined each bat, but I would examine them in the same manner, being very careful careful not to disturb the electrical tape because that's a latent prints examiner's job to remove that and to look for fingerprints or possible ridge detail. So biology is typically the first section that looks at an item of evidence to take our biological fluids or unknown evidence from it. And then it goes to another section in the laboratory to do their testing. And in latent prints, they use a lot of powders and chemicals to try to enrich ridge detail. So it's kind of messy. So we get it first. And that's why.
Okay, and so obviously you're looking for any red-brown staining so you can try to see if there's enough DNA to test. Is that right?
Correct.
Would you be trying to, with the shoes, you were trying to determine a wearer, are you trying to do the same thing here where someone may pull the bat, or are you seeing that in case there are prints?
Yes, I did not swab for handler. Sometimes I swab for handler, but if it's going to jeopardize ridge detail, possible ridge detail for a ladies examiner, I'm going to be conservative and hold back and go, I'm not swabbing that, I'm not touching that, because I don't want to potentially destroy their evidence.
Okay, please walk us through your results.
So on this, when I got my results of a mixture, I could not exclude Mr. Gonzalez from this bat.
Does that mean you were able to exclude the 9 other known profiles that you had?
Yes,
And this was, you said, a mixture of at least 2 individuals?
let me read directly from my report so I don't misquote myself. So analysis of this item gave chemical indications for the presence of blood, and the DNA profile obtained demonstrated the presence of a mixture of at least 2 individuals. The DNA profile of the major contributor could be determined at 4 of the known markers tested. The DNA profile of the major contributor to this mixture matches Roberto Gonzalez. So it was a mixture of 2 or more individuals, but the major profile, even though it's limited, the major profile matches Roberto Gonzalez
So it's
at those markers.
2 individuals in that blood. One, you can say the major contributor was Mr. Gonzalez, but there's the minor contributor. And what can you tell us about that minor contributor?
The DNA profile for the minor contributor cannot be conclusively determined, so I can't say anything about it.
And why is that?
It's just not good science.
Did the sample appear to be degraded in any way?
Well, I was working with a scarce sample to begin with when I swabbed the red-brown stain from the bat, so I was already working with a very limited sample.
And when you swabbed the bat, you said where was that red-brown staining area?
There was some indentations in the bat. It had been dented in, and there were indentations at the end of the bat, and that's what it was.
Okay. Thank you. Does that cover all your testing on bat Q1?
Yes.
I'm now going to publish state 72, also labeled as Q2. So each of the bats are labeled Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, correct?
I'm pretty simple. I try to keep it basic.
And so we discussed Q1. Let's talk about Q2. Did you go through the same process that you've already described for Q1?
I did, and this bat had electrical tape all the way down, like completely covered. So again, I was very careful not to disturb the tape because I didn't want to ruin any potential latent prints. But I swabbed at the end of that general rubbings, and I got chemical indications for the presence of blood where there were indentations. And I took a sample from that and DNA tested that.
Walk us through your results, please.
Yes. So I had chemical indications for the presence of blood, and the DNA profile obtained from this bat demonstrated the presence of a mixture of 2 or more individuals. Erin Belanger, Francisco Ayo-Roman, and Roberto Gonzalez cannot be excluded as a possible contributor to this mixture. So everybody else could be, but they could not be.
So based on your scientific testing, were your results of the mixture on this bat consistent with the bat coming into contact with Erin Belanger, Francisco Ayo-Roman, and Roberto Gonzalez's blood?
It would certainly appear so.
Does that cover all of your testing with Q2?
Yes.
Let's talk about Q3 and Q4. Let's start with Q3. What were your results?
There were no chemical indications for the presence of blood on Q3, but I still took a swabbing down at the end of the bat for I'll try anything once. I just wanted to see if I would get anything.
And I know that you don't know where it came from, but was that bat labeled as coming from the water?
It was.
How would that affect your ability to find possible DNA evidence?
It would make it a hell of a lot harder. I wasn't even able to find chemical indications for the presence of blood on that bat. I didn't find any signs of blood on it. But like I said, I swabbed the end of the bat where you would hit a baseball just to see if I could determine if there was anything there, and there was not.
Tell us about your results for Q4.
Q4 was pretty much the same story. I looked at it. I could not find any chemical indications of blood. However, I swabbed the end of that to see if there was anything there, and there was not.
And was that bat also labeled as being found in the water?
Yes.
Were you in Deltona on August 9, 2004, the Monday following the crime?
Yes.
Was it pouring rain that day?
Yes.
And if bats were found in the brush overhang of the retention pond, would the weather impact your ability to get potential DNA evidence?
If they were left out in the rain and they had blood on them, I would expect that to get washed away, or if they were thrown into a pond, or yes.
Did you also examine and test a knife, a blade, and also a handle?
I did.
I'm going to show you states 19, already in evidence. Do you recognize it?
I do, by my FDLE case number and initials.
What is it?
It is the black plastic knife handle.
And then also states 20, same question, do you recognize it?
I do.
What is it?
It is the blade.
And did you test both of these items?
I did.
Please tell the jury how you processed them and your results.
Okay. With the black plastic knife handle, I tested it for chemical indications of blood, which it gave me chemical indications of blood. In the DNA profile, I basically swabbed the handle of the knife with a sterile cotton tip swab with sterile water to get a sampling of the handle of the knife. Same with the blade. That's how I would collect my sample to test. But the black plastic knife handle from living room gave chemical indications of blood, and the DNA profile obtained from this exhibit demonstrated the presence of a mixture of 2 or more individuals. The DNA profile of the major contributor could be determined at all loci. The DNA profile of the major contributor to this mixture matches the DNA profile of Anthony Vega.
Is it your opinion that Anthony Vega's blood is on the knife handle?
Yes. Also, the DNA profiles for the minor contributors could not be conclusively determined. However, John Gleason and Roberto Gonzalez cannot be excluded as possible contributors to this mixture.
So the remaining known profiles you had, they were excluded.
Yes.
Does that cover your testing for the handle?
Yes.
Let's talk about now the blade.
Okay. Same thing with the blade. I would have looked at that, seen red-brown staining, tested it for chemical indications of blood, which there were. And then I took a swabbing from that using a sterile cotton tip swab with sterile water to get a sample. And the DNA profile obtained from stain A and stain B from the knife blade were both chemical indications of blood. And the major contributor of both of those stains matches John Gleason.
So the handle had, the major was Anthony Vega, but the blade itself, the major was Jonathan Gleason.
Yes.
Okay.
And the DNA profiles for the minor contributors cannot be conclusively determined on the knife blade. However, Anthony Vega and Roberto Gonzalez cannot be excluded as possible contributors to the mixtures from both stain A and stain B from the knife blade.
And you're saying stain A and stain B. Does that mean you found 2 separate areas of red-brown staining?
Yes, I took 2 different stains of the blade because I knew multiple people were involved, and I was just trying to sample the knife blade as conservatively as possible.
Thank you. Does that cover all of your testing for the handle and the blade?
Yes.
Let's turn now to some playing cards and a pay stub.
Yes,
Did you examine some playing cards in this case
I did.
and a pay stub?
Yes.
Walk us through your testing and results of the pay stub.
Okay. The pay stub was represented as being Exhibit 59 to me, and it was a pay stub of Erin Belanger, line under victim, bedroom number 3. Analysis of that exhibit gave chemical indications for the presence of blood, and a DNA profile was not obtained from the analysis of it, which doesn't really surprise me because I took a small sample.
And then walk us through your processing and results of the playing cards.
The playing cards gave chemical indications of the presence of blood, and there was red-brown staining on that. So I took 1 swabbing of the 7 of clubs card backside, one swabbing of the 3 of hearts front side. The DNA profile from the 7 of clubs card demonstrated the presence of a mixture of 2 or more individuals at 4 of the 9 markers tested. The DNA profile of the major contributor to the 7 of clubs card matches Anthony Vega.
And you said a mixture. Does that mean there's a minor contributor as well?
Yes, 1 second, please. Due to the limited DNA results, no conclusions could be made about the minor contributors to that mixture.
Okay, so it's 2 or more. The major contributor is Mr. Vega, and you just can't tell us anything more.
Correct. So on the DNA profile from the 3 of hearts card, it demonstrated the presence of a mixture of 2 or more individuals. And the DNA profile of the major contributor to that matches Anthony Vega.
Can you tell us anything about any possible minor contributors?
Unfortunately, no, the DNA profile for the minor contributor could not be conclusively determined.
Just 1 moment, please. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Wood?
I wish we could get a front view of this man.
Yes, ma'am.
We always see in the back.
Good morning.
So let me ask you this. You've testified a great deal about the various items that the state has shown you and your DNA examination on them some like 20 years ago. Have you done any work, any additional DNA analysis on those items since then?
No, I have not.
Okay. Are you aware of anybody else doing any addition, other than the mitochondrial testing? You know of anybody else that's done any DNA analysis since 20 years ago?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So let me talk a little bit about DNA analysis and transfer. So are there, when we're talking about fluids such as blood, human fluids, are there occasions where DNA, particularly blood, can be transferred from one object or item to another by touching or coming into contact?
Well, like with the baseball bats striking people, the blood from the person that's getting hit with the bat gets contacted with the bat and gets cast off and transferred to the ceiling and into the walls and into the carpet.
Well, let's say that if, for like example, the lug boots, let's talk about those. If the lug boots come into contact with blood from carpet, be it in a car or from some other surface, can the DNA from that blood be transferred to another item, such as the boots?
Well, as you can see with the playing cards we just discussed, those had blood probably transferred to them. I can't say for sure, but people walking around with blood on their shoes, possibly. So yeah, in a situation like that, blood can be transferred to a playing card on the carpet from a pair of shoes.
Okay. And obviously you weren't there, so you're not able to testify how DNA got on a particular item that you testified to here today, correct?
I would assume there was a lot of blood involved and people were bleeding. I don't know the complete circumstances, but there was blood left on various items.
Okay. And with regard to, certainly you would have no personal knowledge as to how any blood got on the Nike shoes. Right?
I don't have any personal knowledge, no.
Okay. Now you mentioned on the Nike shoes that you could smell like a laundry smell.
Yes,
You don't have any personal knowledge when the last time the shoes were cleaned or came in contact with laundry.
whatever it was used was a very strong scent. I like my laundry detergent to have no scents. It was a very strong scent. I can't tell you when.
Your Honor, the witness is trying to answer the question.
Actually, I'm going to sustain the objection. You may respond.
Basically, I have a sensitive nose when it comes to laundry detergents, and it was a very strong smell. Could I tell you what date they were laundered on? No, but it was enough to annoy my sinuses.
Are you able to discern what type of laundry?
No.
So, all right. On the Nike shoes that are in evidence that you testified to about, in your DNA analysis on those shoes, the left and the right shoe, you did not identify any DNA that matches Mr. Jerone Hunter, the defendant in this case.
I did not know.
And you didn't identify any of the other three defendants' DNA to those Nike shoes as well, correct?
I don't know if they were bleeding, but no, I did not.
And for the record, the other co-defendants would be Michael Salas, Troy Victorino, or Robert Cannon, which you were provided samples of their DNA, correct?
I was, yes.
So on the knife blade, I'll break it up. On the knife blade, you were not able to detect any DNA on the knife blade that belonged to Jerone Hunter.
He's not there, no.
And that would also be true with regard to the other three defendants.
That is correct.
And same question with regard to the knife handle. You were not able to detect any DNA of Mr. Hunter on the knife handle, correct?
The knife handle was covered in blood, and liquid blood is more concentrated in DNA. So it's going to trump any potential skin cells there. It's just, if like rock, paper, scissors, blood's always going to win over skin cells. So I'm not surprised that I found.
Can I ask her to answer these, because she's not responsible.
Actually, she's been quite responsive. Mr. Wood, you may proceed.
Thank you. Basically, I swabbed the knife handle, hoping to get information, but I'm not. But the blood on the knife handle trumped any potential handler information, because blood, like rock, paper, scissors, always is going to win over skin cells, always.
So the answer is no, you were not able to identify any DNA belonging to Mr. Hunter on the knife handle.
Because it was covered in blood, yes.
So, and with regard to the bats that you talked about, again, you were not able to identify any DNA belonging to Mr. Hunter on any of the bats.
I was not able to identify any of the 4 defendants on the bats.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Provisco?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, how long have you been working with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
If I count my internship, it'll be 30 years.
And during that 30-year time, have you ever testified for a criminal defendant in a case?
Have I ever? Yeah, I have actually.
Yeah. How many times have you done that?
It's probably less than a dozen times.
And out of the over 130 times that you testified?
Yes.
And in the normal course of events, when you're working for a case at Florida Department of Law Enforcement, there's considerable cooperation between your agency and the investigating agency. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
You're receiving information about the way that the officers believe the crime was committed?
They're telling me a case narrative, so I need some kind of storyline so I know what I'm supposed to be looking for.
Sure. In other words, you're invested in ensuring that the police narrative comes out of the analysis.
I'm not invested, no.
You're not invested, okay.
I'm an advocate of the evidence.
And
I'm an advocate of the evidence. I don't work for anybody but the evidence.
And in terms of the evidence in this case, there were 4 defendant samples in the case.
Correct.
And we heard a lot about defendants Victorino and defendants Hunter. We didn't hear much about Salas and Cannon. You agree with that?
I do agree with that.
And certainly, I don't mean this question to suggest that all these parties didn't have responsibility here, but there's a lack of physical evidence in terms of DNA or blood as to Salas and Cannon. We're in agreement about that, correct?
Correct.
And the result of that could have just been that they did a better job cleaning up their bats.
It's possible.
And in other words, the totality of your testimony really doesn't show much about how these particular bats were used, does it?
I'm just reporting on what I found.
And similarly, it doesn't show specifically who they were used upon. Would you agree with that?
I think we have some victims on the end of a couple of the bats, but I'm just reporting what I tested.
Sure, and I would agree with that. And that's a good segue to something that you mentioned before, which was in response to Mr. Dragona's question about I believe it was the shoe, one of the shoes or one of the boots, being present in a place where blood was shed. Do you remember that response that you made?
Yes, the Lugz boots, yes.
And you would agree with me that that is not the only possibility for the way that blood could appear on those particular boots. Do you agree with that?
Well, those boots would have had to come in contact with those people on another occasion where they bled too, so.
But in terms of the example that was set up for you, the suggestion was that by virtue of the blood being on the shoes, that necessarily that blood had to be in the place where at the moment in time the blood was shed and then got on the shoes. Do you agree with that was the intention of the question, ma'am?
Yes,
Okay. And you would agree with me that there are other scenarios that could have resulted in a person's blood being on a pair of shoes, on the shoes being there when the blood is actually shed. Do you agree with that?
considering all I know about the case, I don't think that these people were hanging out socially, partying. So I'm just
Ma'am,
here.
that wasn't the question. What I'm asking you, you've been testifying for 30 years, correct?
Yes,
How many cases have you analyzed?
thousands.
Okay. And in those thousands of cases, there are probably thousands, if not millions, of possibilities for the way that this evidence could be contaminated with biological evidence. Do you
Well,
agree with
I
that?
wouldn't say millions of ways, but
Okay. So what I'm just asking you to commit on, ma'am, before we go any further is, are there other possibilities for the existence of this biological evidence on, for example, the boots, beyond being in the place where the murder occurred? Is there another possibility, in your professional opinion, that could result in that?
I can't think of another possibility, but if you would like to.
And objection,
Sure.
she could finish the responses before he's starting.
And I will say, Mr. Profisco, you are somewhat,
I didn't say anything.
no, well, and
I agree that I'm not going to cut her off, and I'll just continue, and she can answer her questions.
very good, thank you.
Thank you. So there's, about you not having that information, you weren't investigating the crime scene, correct?
I went to the crime scene to see the layout of the house, but I wasn't collecting evidence or investigating it, talking to people, no.
Did you receive specific information about how items of evidence were taken from the crime scene by the perpetrator and then disposed of?
No.
Okay. And you agreed with my colleague earlier about the concept of DNA transfer or blood transfer? You agree that that can occur?
I agree it can occur, yes.
Thank you. So let's talk specifically about the boots. And we spoke for a second about the lug boots being attributed to Mr. Victorino wearing those boots, and we don't dispute that. Okay. He wears the lug boots, and there's also Ms. Belanger's DNA on the tops of the left and right boot. You agree with that?
Yes,
And certainly I agree with you. That could be consistent with Mr. Victorino personally participating in that murder. Would you agree with that?
it would certainly appear so.
However, we also have on the left boot, the back stain, there's a small stain consistent with the DNA profile of a Mr. Vega. Do you remember testifying to that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you also remember testifying on that back stain. Gonzalez is a minor contributor.
Which stain are you referring to? There's so many.
Just look at it in totality into Q3LC and Q3LA.
Yes. Q3LC, yeah.
And I'll just summarize kind of both of those shoes in the sense that there are indications of DNA among both of those shoes as to Vega, Roman, and Gonzalez. Do you agree with that?
Yes,
And it's on the back of the shoe, right?
yes.
You said specifically as to the Vega stain, that's a small stain.
It is a small stain.
And do you have any personal knowledge about how those shoes got from any room in the house to the ultimate location where they were recovered?
I don't know that.
And I think out of your words before, you agreed that this was a particularly bloody crime scene, correct?
Yes,
Blood was shed amongst, unfortunately, 6 people in this house.
yes,
And you gave a description before, a rather gory one, about a baseball bat hitting a person and blood being transferred on a wall or a ceiling or what have you.
or to the back of his shoes too.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. So we're in agreement that there's multiple possibilities about how blood from a crime scene can get on an article of clothing or shoes.
Sure, from cast off, from beating someone in the blood.
That's one
Yes,
possibility.
one
Would you agree that
possibility.
there are other possibilities now?
Sure,
Another possibility with respect to the blood on the back of the shoes could be Mr. Victorino walking in an area and coming in contact with blood that was on a couch or a mattress that was on the floor or a wall. Would you agree with that?
well, the stain, I'm not disagreeing with that possibility, but the stain size wasn't a smear. It was a dot, like cast off, but I'm not a blood spatter
You're
expert.
not a blood splat.
But when
So-
something's transferred like blood to the playing cards, you can see, I'm not a shoe print expert either, but you can see possible shoe prints there. I can see the transfer, but as far as walking by and that little dot getting on the shoes, I find that highly unlikely. I'm just saying.
One possibility could be that Mr. Victorino was next to a person who was being beat with a bat, even though he wasn't doing the beating himself.
That's a possibility too.
Okay, fair enough. Possibly if there was an item, say a bat or a knife, that was being removed from the crime scene, and that article was shaken rapidly, and there was blood on one of those articles, that could have caused the blood to be on the shoe.
Sure, if you're stabbing someone and
No,
pulling out,
My specific question, I'm sorry if you didn't understand, was if the contraband was being removed from the crime scene.
from the crime
process
scene.
of that being disposed.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant from the victim. Sorry.
And that's fine. Would it be possible for blood from that article to be cast off or shaken off onto a pair of shoes?
It's possible.
And similarly, if the shoes were taken in conjunction with a knife or a knife handle and lumped together and moved from the crime scene from another location, that could be a possibility as well.
Yeah, if you package it and commingle, that's possible.
So I think we're in agreement that there are multiple scenarios that could result in the presence of the blood on the boots. Can we agree with that?
If they were all commingled, that's a possibility.
Thank you. And with respect to the Nikes, there was none of your analysis that indicated the presence of Troy Victorino's DNA on those Nikes.
None.
Similarly, as to the shoelaces,
I don't know what the mitochondrial results were, but I don't believe so.
in terms of the hair from the bat, you're not sure how that hair got there.
I do not know that.
Let's talk about the baseball bats. Your analysis, certainly, and I would agree with this, suggests that these bats were used in the perpetration of these murders. I think we're in agreement about that.
Yes.
However, what we can't say about the baseball bat from your analysis is who actually used the baseball bat. Do you agree?
I agree. Like I said, I did not swap or handler because I didn't want to destroy any latent prints. And back 20 years ago, latent prints was probably a better test than testing for handler on items back then.
And you talked a little bit amongst the several articles about mixtures of DNA.
Yes.
That too could be a product of these bats being commingled and touching one another.
That's a possibility.
And mixtures are difficult to interpret for many reasons. I don't want to go into them, but are we in agreement about that?
Yes.
Certainly there could be a contemporaneous situation where two sources of blood get on the bat. We agree with that, right?
Right.
Could be a situation where the bats are wiped down in close proximity with the same rat.
Could be.
That when they're being handled and taken out of an expedition and thrown into a retention pond.
Could be.
So in other words, we can say that the 4 baseball bats were used in the murder, but we can't say how they were used or who used them.
Correct. I was not there.
And similarly with the knife blade and the knife handle, the same scenario could have existed, that the existence of this DNA could be the result of them coming into contact with something else in when it was being disposed.
Well, with the knife blade and the knife handle, I didn't find any of the defendants on that. It was just victim's blood. So
Sure. And do you know where the knife blade or the knife handle were found?
No.
And in terms of the playing cards, those were found in the house?
I believe so.
Okay. And it's without dispute that the house was the murder scene, right?
That's a fact. Yes.
All right. And we know that the blood was shed in the house,
A lot.
and there's blood on the playing card in the house.
Yes.
So really, the playing card tells us absolutely nothing about who did what inside the house.
The playing card was just having a nice day and it was on the floor.
Okay. And the same summation with questions as to the pay stub. The pay stub was found where?
On the floor under one of the victims.
In the murder scene that we know about, right?
Correct.
So there's no real inferences from the pay stub that we can glean.
None.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Gonis, any questions?
No, Jeff.
All right, may she be excused?
Please.
Ma'am, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time. State's next witness.
Next witness. I think this is the last witness. I know, it's all Katya's fault. We never would have been involved with McDonald's today had Katya not brought it up. Shame on her.
I do. Sure.
Okay, they want to approach. I don't like static. I know, right? Katya comes in here, wrecks everything, and then goes to bed. Damn her.
And was this felony probation?
Yes, it was.
And was the felony he was on probation for was aggravated battery?
Yes, it was.
Judge, in testimony given by Ms. Mintel this morning is only relevant to the aggravators for Mr. Victorino.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is only for Mr.
Brenda
Victorino.
Mintel,
And how do you spell your
Troy.
last name?
capital M-I-N as in Nancy, T-E-L-L.
Where do you work?
Florida Department of Corrections.
What's your job there?
I am the Assistant Regional Director of Region 2,
How long have you been working with the Florida Department of Corrections?
31 years.
Were you employed with them in 2003 and 2004?
Yes, I was.
What were you doing for the Department of Corrections at that time in 2003 and 2004?
I was a correctional probation specialist.
What are the responsibilities of a correctional probation specialist?
I supervise high-risk offenders.
Back in 2003, did you come to know Troy Victorino through your responsibilities as a probation officer?
Yes, I did.
Do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Could you identify him by piece of clothing?
He's wearing a blue sweater, blue shirt, tie.
And that's the record reflects he's identified Mr. Victorino.
The record so reflects.
When did the defendant begin his probationary term with you?
October 15, 2003.
And was this felony probation?
Yes, it was.
And was the felony he was on probation for was aggravated battery?
Yes, it was.
And how long did you supervise Mr. Victorino for?
Until December of 2003.
And did a different probation officer take over supervision at that time?
Yes, he did.
Even though you stopped supervising him in 2003, the end of 2003, are you familiar with his continued supervision by the Department of Corrections?
Yes, I am.
Was Mr. Victorino still on felony probation when he committed the murders at Telford Lane on August 5th and 6th of 2000?
Yes, he was.
One moment, Your Honor.
You may.
Thank you. I'll attend to the witness.
I have no questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wood, no questions?
Good question.
All right, and may she be excused, released.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you very much for your time. State's next witness.
Well, that went fast.
There's going to be read back testimony.
Okay, and
Okay, this is a reading testimony from the previous trial. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but they go into reading
members of the jury,
testimony like
you're about
we
to
did
hear
yesterday.
prior sworn testimony of a witness from a prior court proceeding. The person has been deemed legally unavailable, and the prior testimony will be read back to you.
Judge, this is Investigator Eric Sabercool from our office. We'll be doing the read back.
And once you all are all set up, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge.
Oh, approach. Yes, certainly. I was.
Approaching again. And then they're going to get to reading this testimony.
Previously been duly sworn, testified as follows. This is the direct examination by Mr. Plankowitz. Could you tell us your full name, please?
Jerome Lamar Hunter,
And Mr. Hunter, what's your date of birth?
5/31/86,
And how old are you right now?
20,
How old were you on August the 5th of 2004?
18.
Do you know Michael Salas?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Michael?
I first met Michael Salas in high school,
Where did you go to high school?
Pine Ridge High School.
Is that in Deltona, Florida?
Yes, sir.
And at the time of this occurrence in 2004, what grade level were you at?
I was going into 12th,
And you met Mr. Salas in high school or middle school?
high school.
And did you know Robert Anthony Cannon?
I had met him probably a month prior to the August.
Incident?
Right.
And how did you meet him?
I met him through Andrew Rodriguez.
You don't meet him through Mr. Salas?
No, not the first time I met him.
Do you know Brandon Graham?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Brandon?
I met him through his cousins, which are my friends. We went to Pine Ridge. They went to Pine Ridge with me.
When you were at Pine Ridge, what type of activities did you participate in?
I played football, wrestling, weightlifting, track and stuff.
Were you a Golden Gloves boxer?
No, sir.
And was wrestling kind of your passion?
Yes, sir.
What kind of grades did you get?
Average C's, B's.
B's and C's? When did you meet Troy Victorino?
About the end of June, early July.
And how did you meet Mr. Victorino?
I met him through one of the Abbey brothers.
We've heard about Abby this and Abby that. Can you give us their full names, or are they twins?
Right.
What is the relation?
It's twins, and I worked with Abby M.
What does the M stand for? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
All right. How about Abby G? How do you know that name?
Right. I met him a little later.
And were you a friend with either one of them initially?
Yes, sir.
Which one, or both?
Well, I was friends with Abby M, so I worked with him for a short time, and he introduced me to his brother, Abby G.
You say you worked with him. In addition to going to school, where did you work?
KFC.
Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Yes, sir.
How long did you work there?
about 9-10 months.
Getting back to Mr. Victorino, did you meet him again?
I met him through ABM.
And what were your living circumstances at the time you met him?
Well, at the time I met him, I had just moved back in with my family.
Had you been living outside of your family home in Deltona?
Yes, sir.
Did you have some disagreements with the family and you moved out, or were you thrown out?
It was disagreements.
And the first time you moved out, how much time were you away from home?
Probably 3-4 months.
And then you moved back in. You said you met Mr. Victorino just after you had moved back in home.
Yes, sir.
And how long did you stay at home?
Probably 3 days.
Problem. Same problems come up again?
Yeah, I made me follow my curfew.
You had a curfew?
Right.
A rising senior in high school, and you had what was your curfew?
I believe it was 12 o'clock.
And you missed curfew, so you had to move out again? You had to leave?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Victorino, offer you a place to stay?
I had told Brandon Sheets and ABM had heard or whatever, and that same night, and Troy heard about it, and he said that I could stay there.
Where were you staying? Where is
Okay, I just have to stop and make the comment. This is totally weird that they're showing the back of this man's head and reading his testimony from the last trial. What is going through this man's mind right now? I can only imagine this was 20 years ago.
the there?
I think the street was Pennington.
Pennington?
I believe so. I'm not sure.
Whose house is that? Do you know?
Troy and a guy named Mike.
Did Troy own the house as far as you know?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Did Mr. Victorino set you up with rules as to what, in order to be able to stay there, what you could and couldn't do?
Right.
What kind of rules were they?
Pretty much don't bring any attention to the house.
Why weren't you supposed to bring any attention to the house?
I mean, he didn't want any type of,
Police or anything else over there?
right.
When you met Mr. Victorino, did he own an Xbox?
No, sir.
Sorry, I need to finish that. You know, that's been kind of a big feature of this case. Everybody talked about an Xbox.
No, sir.
Excuse me?
No, sir.
He didn't have any Xboxes?
He didn't have an Xbox. He had, I believe, a PlayStation 2 or something like that.
Okay, some kind of video game?
Right.
Is that the video game that was allegedly taken eventually from the Providence house?
No, sir.
Did you know Josh Spencer?
Yes, sir.
How did you know Josh?
I met him around the same time I met Troy.
Was he a friend of Troy's?
Yes, sir.
Were most of these people that you knew that also knew Mr. Victorino more your age or his age?
More my age.
Mid to late 20s?
My age.
So it'd be fair to say that he kind of hung around with a younger crowd of people.
Yes, sir.
Some of you 7 to 10 years younger, correct?
Yes, sir.
How long did you live at the first location with Mr. Victorino approximately?
Probably 3 weeks.
Were you contributing to the rent? You said you were working. Were you paying any bills or anything like that?
No.
No? Were you working actually at that point in time?
No, sir.
Now, the testimony has been that you eventually moved over to the Providence Road house. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you move directly from the first house to Providence, or was there someplace in between?
No, directly.
And how did you get to the Providence house? How did you move in there?
After the eviction at the house on Pennington, Joshua Spencer has said that he called his grandmother and asked her if we could stay there for a few days.
And did Josh have keys to that house?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any inkling or belief that you shouldn't be at that house?
I was just going by what he said. He said that she said okay.
In relation to the murders on August the 5th, when did you move into Providence approximately? How long before?
2 weeks.
How long did you stay at Providence?
Probably a week at the most.
Describe for the jury, if you would, what the attitude was when you all came back and found your property taken.
Well, we was mad about it.
Who all was living there at that point in time, besides you and Troy Victorino and Josh Spencer?
Brandon Sheets.
And what about, there was a young lady. Was she living there also? Do you know?
No, sir. She wasn't living there.
Was there any property taken besides yours and Mr. Victorino's that you know of?
Yes, sir.
Whose property?
Nicole Kogut.
Kogut?
Yes, sir.
And is Nicole Kogut one of the girls who went over at one point in time to the Telford house and caused a problem there?
Yes, sir.
What was taken of hers, if you know?
Some clothing.
Dresses, skirts, what? Do you know?
No, not exactly what.
After you came back to the Providence Road house and saw that some of your things were missing, I guess Mr. Victorino's car had been towed. Where did you go? What did you do?
We went over to a house on Sky Street
Did you stay there?
that night, one night.
Did you stay inside the house, outside the house, in the yard, in a tree? Where did you stay?
Well, I mean, it was early morning, so it was like almost daytime. So we stayed outside, we sat around outside until,
On the porch area?
yes, sir.
From Providence Road then and Sky Street, where did you go as far as living arrangements?
Over to a house on Fort Smith.
And whose house was that?
Henry Melendez and Rafael Melendez.
Were they friends of yours?
No, sir. I met them through Troy.
And how long totally did you live at Fort Smith?
A few days.
Did you have your own room at Fort Smith?
There's like, used to be a garage. It was like one half was like a laundry area,
Have a pool table in it?
a pool table.
Kind of recreation laundry room type setup?
Right.
And did you stay in that room by yourself?
No, sir.
Excuse me?
No, sir.
Who else was living there, so to speak?
Troy.
Did you both have your property there?
Yes, sir.
Was there other property there, such as property from the Melendez brothers, given the fact that it was a laundry room area?
Yes, sir.
Now, there was an incident. I know you heard the testimony about it. An incident at the skating rink. Were you involved in that initially? In other words, when the initial problem occurred between Mr. Cannon and Mr. Salas,
No, sir.
how did you come to hear about that?
Well, I had went up to Little Caesars with this guy, John, and another guy, two of Troy's friends, and I got in the car. So Cannon was like hunched over like he was hurt.
What car are you talking about? What car are you talking about?
This guy, John's car.
Okay, and Cannon was in that car?
No, he was in the parking lot, the Little Caesars parking area.
All right, did you ask him what happened?
So I walked over and I asked him what was up, what happened.
And a result of that conversation, what did you do?
They told me that they had been jumped and
Were you told who jumped them? What specific people or persons, or just
they named a couple of people and I knew who they were.
what did you do at that point?
They said that they were supposed to meet up with them and fight.
Where?
Let's see. They didn't say where at first, but since they had to go to the skate rink first to get his little cousin to pick up his cousin,
Who had to do that?
Salas.
And how did it eventually come about that everybody went to Manny Rodriguez Park?
Well, while we was at the skating rink, we saw Abby M and the Abbey brothers was up there. And I confronted him about the stuff from
Providence?
Providence, the stuff from Providence. And he said he didn't have anything to do with it. It was his brother, Abby G and Flacco that,
Flacco being Mr. Roman, one of the victims in this case.
yes, sir.
You always, or did you back then, have a baseball bat by your side?
No, sir.
And why is that?
I didn't need one.
And did you ever suffer any sports injuries that may restrict your swinging a baseball bat?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
A shoulder injury from weightlifting
Now, when was the first time you saw a baseball bat relative to this case?
that Wednesday night.
When you were going to the park?
Right, in Cannon's SUV.
Did anyone have a baseball bat other than Mr. Cannon in his SUV?
What do you mean?
Well, prior to getting into the SUV, did anybody have a baseball bat or any other kind of weapon?
Prior to getting into?
Yeah, before you got into it.
No, sir.
So the first time you saw baseball bats was in Cannon's SUV.
Yes, sir.
And you heard testimony about this gun, the .38 revolver. Where did it come from?
Well, it was when I first had got into the vehicle with them at Little Caesars.
The vehicle being the Expedition?
Yes, sir. Expedition. Mr. Salas showed the gun to me.
And did you come to understand or realize who owned the gun or who had possession of it, essentially?
Yes, sir.
Who was that?
Mr. Cannon.
Now, did Mr. Victorino get involved with the three of you regarding going over to the park?
After we was at the skating rink, after Abby M had left, Abby G pulled up with some guys, some of the guys that had jumped Mr. Cannon and Salas. There was a confrontation there, but nothing happened.
Was Mr. Victorino there at that point?
No, sir.
How did he get involved?
Well, when they dropped off Salas's little cousin at the house, we went by and picked up Troy.
Whose idea was it to get Troy?
Well, Salas asked me where he was, and I told him he was back at the house.
Why would you or Salas or Cannon want to get Troy?
Well, we knew he had a beef with Abby G.
Okay, and did his size or his demeanor have anything to do with wanting him there?
That too.
Did anything actually happen at the park?
No, sir.
From the park, where did you go?
We went back to the house on Fort Smith.
Who went back to the house on Fort Smith?
Me, Troy, Salas, and Cannon.
This was the night before, essentially, the murders.
Wednesday night.
Did all four of you go into the house?
Not at that time. The people that was at the skating rink, well, that was in the car at the skating rink had passed by and,
As you were going back to Fort Smith?
right, after we pulled in, me and Victorino stepped out of the SUV. They passed by, they put on their brakes and started yelling stuff. And then Troy said for me to get back in the Expedition.
At that point in time, who had possession of the gun?
It was Cannon did.
Did Mr. Victorino ever get possession of the gun at some point in time during either the park or going back to Fort Smith?
Yes, sir.
And how did he get possession of the gun?
Cannon.
When you got back to Fort Smith, these guys stopped and yelled at you. You got back in the car. What happened at that point?
Then Troy told Cannon to follow them.
And did you all follow them?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Victorino obtain the gun or have the gun at that point in time?
He told Cannon to give him the gun.
And then what happened?
Then that's when he took a shot at them.
After that, did you break off the confrontation with these guys in the car?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go?
We went back to Fort Smith, the house on Fort Smith.
Who went into the house on Fort Smith?
Me and Troy.
Just the two of you?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Victorino still have the gun?
Yes, sir.
Once you got into the house, what happened then?
Sat down and Troy was talking about he wanted to get Abby and he wanted to get his stuff and all that, get our stuff.
And that was taking place at the Fort Smith house, correct?
Right.
And he still had the gun.
Yes, sir.
What was he doing with the gun?
Well, he was like just playing with it back and forth in his hand like that, indicating.
And what was he saying to you with regard to what he was doing at that point in time?
Well, he like I said, he just kept talking about getting his stuff and everything. Then I was like, you know what I mean? Like, you can get that stuff again, or whatever. Just forget it.
Did he get mad?
Out of control, right?
Did he get angry at that point in time?
Yes, sir.
And he had the gun in his hand?
Yes, sir.
And what did he tell you when you told him, forget this stuff, we can buy new stuff?
Well, he was like, no, he's not going to forget it. And he was saying just like he going He'll get any and everybody that F with him, getting away what he wants, disrespecting him, and betray him.
What was your feeling at that point in time?
I was, you know what I mean? I was scared because the way he said it, you know what I'm saying? It was like he was saying it to me.
And he's there playing with the gun, flipping the gun back and forth, talking about "don't mess with me" type of thing,
Right,
and "don't disrespect me."
right.
Did you think that that was aimed towards you?
Yes, sir.
And did Mr. Victorino know where you lived, where your family lived?
Yes, sir.
Had he been to your house?
Yes, sir.
Did he know your mother and your sister,
Yes, sir.
as far as you know?
Yes, sir.
Did he know that your stepfather was a long-distance truck driver and was gone a lot?
Yes, sir.
Later that night, did Mr. Victorino get rid of the gun, or what happened to the gun?
No, he still had it that day into the next day.
He never actually pointed it at you, did he?
I didn't actually see him pointed at me. No, sir. But I mean,
Or what?
like the layout of the sofa, it was one that,
Like a circular, not circular, but like an L-shaped sofa?
right. And he was sitting over on the short side of it. And I was sitting like in the middle of the long side.
Kind of sort of facing each other?
Right. I was facing this way, he's indicating, with him facing me from the side.
At that time, were you afraid of Troy? Did you have a fear of him?
Yes, sir. I mean, I knew, basically when he don't get what he wants or, don't want to do what he want to do, he gets real angry.
At that point in your life, did you have any place else to go other than where you were at Fort Smith?
No, sir. My mother and father was out of town, so I couldn't go there.
On Thursday, the next day, essentially, did you have occasion to meet up with Cannon, Salas, and Brandon Graham?
Yes, sir.
Where was that?
At Fort Smith.
Before we get into that, did you arrange transportation for Mr. Victorino around or anything like that?
Not really. I probably called my sister to give us a ride somewhere before, but not really.
Not on a regular basis?
Right.
Okay, so we're Thursday. About what time of day did the other three young men come over to the house?
It was like early part of the day. I'm not sure the exact time.
And you heard testimony about a movie called Wonderland. Did you all watch a movie called Wonderland?
No, sir.
Have you ever watched that movie?
No, sir.
Were the Melendez brothers there at the house at that point in time, if you know?
No, sir. They wasn't there.
What were the discussions about with Mr. Victorino at that point in time?
Well, he brought up the issue with the stuff,
That was over at Telford?
right.
Did you all know at that point that it was at the Telford house?
Yes, some of it. Yes.
Now, when he brought up the issue, what was the discussion about?
Well, he was saying he was just getting sick he was getting sick of all this and he wanted to get his stuff back and that, disrespected him and stuff like that.
Was there any discussion about killing anyone at that point in time?
No, sir.
And how was he going to get the stuff back? Did he say?
Yes, sir.
What did he tell you?
He said that going to go over there and get it.
Did he specifically ask each of you, the four of you, whether you were down with it or you were with him or anything like that?
Yes, sir.
And did you give him a specific answer?
I shook my head. Yes.
Yes?
Yes, sir. Oh, no.
Any,
Yeah, go ahead.
LID. Any of the other three give you a specific answer? Yes, I'm in, or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Who was that?
All four of us.
Did you again try to talk him out of it?
Like right before then, he got into that he wanted to get that I did.
Do you know why Mr. Victorino was so intent on getting that property back? Given the fact that there was some clothes and some odds and ends apparently.
Well, from my understanding, it was more than just clothes and stuff.
From him that was taken?
Right.
Later that Thursday, Mr. Hunter, did you go to Papa Joe's or a place called Papa Joe's?
Later that night.
Approximately what time?
It was, I don't know the exact time, but it was sometime after 11.
After 11. And why did you go to Papa Joe's?
Troy said he wanted to go up there and show his face.
Did you drop him off or did you wait for him? Or what happened?
We waited for him
And how long was he in Papa Joe's?
about 10, 15 minutes.
And what time did he come out of there approximately?
I don't know the exact time.
When he went into Papa Joe's, did you happen to notice what he was wearing clothing-wise?
Yes, sir.
What was he wearing?
He had on blue jeans, like a tan South Pole shirt.
Tan South Pole shirt?
Yes, sir.
Did you recognize or do you know what kind of shoes he was wearing or do you remember?
No, sir. I can't recall.
I mean, you've seen these lugs boots paraded around. Do you remember if he was wearing those or not?
Not exactly. I didn't
Okay.
pay attention.
After you picked him up at Papa Joe's, where did you go?
Well, he said he needed to go back to the house on Fort Smith.
Who needed to go back?
Troy.
Why?
He needed to get a hooded sweater.
Did you stop at the 7-Eleven like that video showed
Say that was before.
before he went back to Fort Smith?
Right before.
After you went back to Fort Smith, where did you all go?
Well, before we went to Papa Joe's, we had went over a friend of Mike's house, a female,
Who was that? Do you remember her name?
Christina,
And how long were you there?
about 30 minutes.
And then you went back to Fort Smith?
Then we went to Papa Joe's. Well, Papa Joe's.
And after Papa Joe's, did you go to the 7-Eleven?
We went to the 7-Eleven first, then to Papa Joe's because it's right down the street from where Christina lived.
And after you went back to the Fort Smith house, as you already testified, Where did you all go after it changed?
We went over to the area where he used to live, Pennington.
Pennington?
Right.
How long were you around at that area?
About 5-10 minutes.
And so then what did you do?
Then we went over to the
Telford?
Telford.
When you went to Telford, did anyone have a mask?
Well, I did. I did Salas and Cannon.
Why did you all have masks?
Not sure face.
Did Mr. Victorino have a mask?
No, sir.
Describe for the jury when you got to Telford what happened.
Well, we got to Telford and he told Cannon to park around the corner.
Who told him?
Troy did. Troy told Cannon to park around the corner.
Then what happened?
Then that's when we put on the sweatshirt and walked up to Telford.
Did he pull the hood up?
No, sir.
When you got to the front door of Telford, what happened?
Well, we was out on the porch and Troy said he was going to kick the door in and we'd all go in.
Did he kick the door in?
Yes, sir.
Who went into the house first?
I did.
Who went in after you?
I'm not sure which one, but it was either Mike or Anthony.
Who was the last one in the house?
Troy.
When you got in the front door, what happened?
Got into the front door. There was a guy sitting on the floor and a guy sitting on a recliner.
Did you hit one of these people?
Yes, sir.
Where did you hit them?
Well, the guy in a recliner, I hit him like on his like forearm.
Forearms?
Yeah, like
Did he lift up his arms or something?
he put his arms up like that, indicating.
Did you ever hit that person in the head?
No, sir.
Did that person eventually get hit in the head that you saw?
Yes, sir.
And who did that person, and who hit that person in the head?
Troy.
And from what angle did he hit him in the head?
He was standing behind him and he hit him over the top.
Like right in the back of the head, top back?
Yes, sir.
What did he hit him with?
Baseball bat.
What next did you do?
Well, like when he hit him, like just the expression on the guy in the recliner's face was like on his face, like he lost expression. Like he,
Did you have a thought in your mind at that point in time that this is all going wrong?
yes, sir.
Did you know any of the people in the house?
Jonathan Gleason and Michelle Nathan.
I think you skipped line 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had met 2 of the people there,
Who had you met in the house?
Jonathan Gleason and Michelle Nathan.
Did Miss Nathan go to school with you at one point in time?
Yes, sir.
Were you even friends with her to some degree?
Yes, sir. We talked before.
When Mr. Victorino came into that house, where was the first place he went?
The first place he went was on the right.
When you first went in, was that the master bedroom or the biggest bedroom, as far as you know?
Yes, sir. As far as I know,
And how long was he in that room?
not long.
Did anyone else go in that room?
No, sir.
You, Cannon, or Salas?
No, sir.
Just Mr. Victorino.
Yes, sir.
How long were you all in the house?
I don't exactly know how long.
Did you hit anyone in the head with a baseball bat when you were in that house?
No, sir.
Other than Mr. Victorino, did you see anyone else hit anyone in the head with a baseball bat?
Yes, sir.
Who?
Salas.
And who did he hit?
He hit the guy that was sitting on the floor when we first came in. He ran into one of the back rooms, which was on the right, and that's when Salas went in there.
And did Salas get in any kind of a tussle with that person?
Yes, sir.
And what did Mr. Victorino do when that was going on?
Well, at that point, the stuff when Mr. Victorino had hit Mr. Gleason over the head, I like sat there and I looked at him and he was like, "Go help the others." After that, I went to the room where Cannon was, which was the room on the left down the hall.
Who was in that room of the victims, if you know?
I believe it was Mr. Vega.
Did you hit Mr. Vega at all?
Yes, sir.
Where did you hit him?
Well, when I first came in, like he was swinging, he had some type of stick or whatever, and like him and Cannon were like swinging at each other. And then I came in and he like swung towards me and I swung the bat. I missed the first time and then Cannon hit him. And then like when Cannon hit him, Cannon came towards my way again. And then I hit him again in his shoulder. And that's when he dropped the stick.
Did you ever hit him in the head?
No, sir.
And I asked you earlier, how long were you all in the house at that point in time?
I'm not sure.
Well, have you been in there half an hour or was it a very short period of time?
No, it was a short period of time.
Who was the first to leave?
Well, me, Cannon, and Salas had walked towards the doorway. And that's when like I was like kind of halfway in, halfway out. And then
The front door?
right. And then Anthony went out and Mike went out.
And did you go right out after them?
Yes, sir. A short time after them, I kind of stalled out on the patio for a few seconds.
Was Mr. Victorino still in the house?
Yes, sir.
By himself, essentially with the victims?
Yes, sir.
Did you all leave the house at that point in time when he came out?
We walked down to the vehicle. Mike and Anthony, of course, got there before me because I waited a few seconds after they had left out. And I got back there. It was like, where's Troy? What's he doing? And then kind of stood there.
Did you know what he was doing, Troy?
No, sir.
Did he eventually join the 3 of you in the car?
I said, let's go back in and get him. I told that to Salas. And we were going back. And then halfway back, Salas turned around and went back to the vehicle.
Did Mr. Victorino then meet you and get in the car with the 3 of you?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go then?
Right then, we kind of like left or whatever, and like Troy said,
Excuse me, did you go all the way back to the Fort Smith house or to some other house?
no, sir.
Did you come back to the Telford house?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Troy said he needed to go back.
And on the way back, what was the discussion with Mr. Victorino?
I'm not sure.
What happened when you got back to the house?
When we got back, we got out. Salas stood outside of the vehicle, and he got out and he went into the house.
Did Mr. Victorino have any other kind of weapons with him other than these baseball bats?
Yes, sir.
What did he have?
He had a knife.
Describe the knife.
It was a type of, I guess, like a push button,
Switchblade type knife?
switchblade type.
Where did he get that from?
It was Michael Salas's.
Did anyone else go back into the house with Troy Victorino?
No, sir.
Did he take the knife with him when he went back into the house?
Yes, sir.
When he came out, did you see the knife?
Yes, sir.
How long was he in the house the second time?
Probably a few minutes, 2-3 minutes.
What did the knife look like when he came out of the house with it?
Well, he was wiping it off
What was on the knife?
with his shirt. Blood.
Did he get back into the SUV at that point?
Yes, sir.
Did you all leave then?
Yes, sir.
What did he do with the knife?
Like I said, he was wiping it off with his sweatshirt. Then he gave it back to Mike, and told him, make sure you wipe it off real good, clean it real good.
Did he tell him to get rid of it?
Well, he did it first, and then Mike said he wasn't going to get rid of it. Then he said, well, make sure you clean it off real good. He said, if you're going to keep it, make sure you clean it off real good.
Now, you got arrested on what day?
That Saturday.
And when you were arrested, what were you wearing?
I had on blue jeans, blue shirt, blue suede SAO, Stacy Adam boots, and a hat.
What size shoe do you wear?
8.5 to 9, 9.5,
The shoes that you were wearing that day when you got arrested, what size were they?
9.5.
You ever wear a 10 and a half?
No, sir.
I'd like to show you what's marked in evidence as States 41. Are those your 10 and a half Nikes?
I don't wear 10.5.
Okay, so those are not your shoes.
Can't be.
Have you ever worn or possessed a 10 and a half Nike shoe?
No, sir.
Now, in the state's presentation, did you see the photograph of the shoelaces in the laundry basket from the area where you and Troy were living?
Yes, sir.
Were those shoelaces in that laundry basket? Were those your shoelaces in that laundry basket?
I'm not sure.
Excuse me?
I'm not sure.
What other clothes were in that laundry basket, if you know?
Laundry?
Laundry to be done, to be cleaned, dirty stuff?
I believe so.
Did you put a pair of shoelaces in that laundry basket to be washed?
No, sir.
Jerome, you gave a statement to the police, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in the initial stages of that statement, you were pretty evasive with them, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
Were you still afraid of Troy Victorino at that point in time?
Yes, sir.
This is now cross-examination by Mr. Dees.
This might be a good place to stop for lunch. Can the attorneys approach?
Can approach for lunch. They're going to discuss it, see what happens. Yep, they dip out for lunch. And they're gone, and they're gone, and they're gone. And they're still gone.
It was probably about 12.
Would that be about midnight, Thursday night?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Troy Victorino kicked in the front
Zoom,
door of the
zoom.
Telford house.
Yes, sir.
Where were you when he did that?
We were all standing right there at the door.
Did he have any trouble doing it?
No, sir.
He did it all by himself,
Yes, sir.
with his foot.
Yes, sir.
One kick?
Yes, sir.
Was that door locked? Could you tell?
I couldn't tell.
And when you said Victorino wanted to make sure you all entered the house before he kicked in that door, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you say to Troy Victorino, and you testified that when the door was kicked open and Victorino came into the house, he went straight to the bedroom on the right.
Yes, sir.
In States Exhibit 5, is this the porch where you were?
Yes, sir.
And is this the front door Mr. Victorino kicked in?
Yes, sir.
And which bedroom did Mr. Victorino go straight into after he kicked in the door?
Bedroom 3.
This one here, bedroom 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and when you came in, you went to the fellow in the recliner here in the living room, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you entered the home and went to the man in the recliner, did you know the name of that man?
No, sir.
Well, I think you said you knew Jonathan Gleason from school. Was that Jonathan Gleason?
Right. I didn't know his name. I knew his last name was Gleason, but I didn't know exactly his name.
So you knew that the man in the recliner was Gleason, the boy you knew from high school, right?
Right.
And so you recognized him in the chair, is that right?
Well, not right off.
When you hit him, did you recognize it was him?
I actually didn't recognize him until after I saw it when I was in jail. I saw it in the newspaper.
Didn't you tell him that I don't like you?
No, sir.
When you went into the house, you screamed at him, "Where's our stuff?" Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he was watching TV and he said to you, "I don't know," right?
Right.
And that's when you began to hit him with the bat, right?
Yes, sir.
And what was the reason you began to hit him with the bat?
I figured that he knew where the stuff was.
What?
I said I figured that he knew where the stuff was.
So you thought he was lying?
Right.
And why did you figure he knew where your stuff was?
Well, that initial time when we went over there, he was in the house.
And what time was that first time?
It's August 1st.
August 1st, Sunday night. So you were there Sunday night?
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Victorino there Sunday night?
He was in the expedition.
But he came with you in the expedition Sunday night.
Yes, sir.
And Anthony picked you and Mr. Victorino up Sunday night.
Yes, sir.
And these girls, including Nicole, were with you. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you saw Jonathan Gleason at the Telford house Sunday night.
Yes, sir.
And you went there looking for your stuff Sunday night, right?
I didn't to fight Abby G.
You wanted to fight Abby G because you thought it had something to do with taking your stuff from Providence. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That and a previous incident that I had with him.
Okay, so you had two beefs with Abby G, right?
Yes, sir.
But you were at the house at Telford at the front door Sunday night, and the girls were saying, "Where's your stuff? Where's Troy's stuff?" Right?
And her stuff.
And her stuff. Okay, did you talk to Jonathan Gleason then?
No, sir.
Did he see you?
I don't think so. No, sir.
You saw him though.
Yes, sir.
So you didn't get your stuff Sunday night. So you came back at midnight on Thursday, 4 to 5 days later, to get your stuff back, correct?
Right.
All right. And when Gleason said, "I don't know," you thought he was lying, so you began hitting him. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that knocked him back in the chair, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
And then what happened?
Then I hit him again.
While he was in the chair?
Yes, sir.
And then what happened?
Then Troy had came behind him, and that's when he hit him over the top.
Well, when you were arrested on Saturday, August 7th, you were interviewed by investigator Orzepa and Greg Seymour. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And you recall this question in your answer on page 107, line 5, Orzepa. After you hit him in the arms, what happened? What happens then? And you say, "Well, everything started happening so fast."
Right.
Is that true?
That's what I said.
And the next question, what happened to the guy in the recliner? Your answer, he tried to get up again. You said that, right?
Right.
And then he says, "What do?" You say, "I swing the bat again."
Yes, sir.
And they say, "Do you hit him with it?" And you say, "Yes." Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then they say, "Where did you hit him?" And what was your answer?
I can't recall what my answer was.
Well, that was your answer. I can't recall. I was swinging the bat. So you don't know where you were hitting Gleason.
I know I didn't hit him in the head.
But you said there you can't recall.
Right.
So you don't know. Now you say you were hitting him in the head.
I know I wasn't.
Well, the next question, Orzepa said, "Where were you aiming?" And your answer was, "Swing the bat. I was just swinging the bat."
Right.
You didn't say you were hitting him in the head there, right?
No, sir. I didn't say it there.
How many times did you swing the bat and hit Gleason?
I don't exactly know how many times.
You don't know? It could have been a dozen or more, correct?
Not a dozen more, probably a dozen less.
You don't know. Okay. They asked you this question. How many times did you hit the guy in the recliner? Page 108. Your answer was, "I don't know." Is that correct? You said, "I don't know."
I believe so.
Then Orzepa said, "Did you hit him more than 3 times?" And you said, "Yes." And then he said, "You had to give me a number between," and you said, "I don't know." Orzepa said, "More than 3, less than a dozen." And you said, "I guess so, yeah." So you just were guessing, right?
I mean, I knew it was around in that range.
And you didn't know where you were hitting. You were swinging. You didn't even know where you were aiming, did you?
No, sir. I wasn't aiming in particular.
You were just kind of in a rage, right?
No, sir. I wasn't in a rage.
Then you went into bedroom 2 after the other guys were on the floor, didn't you? I'm sorry, the back bedroom on the right.
No, sir.
You went in there and hit that man, didn't you?
No, sir.
Gonzalez?
No, sir.
Do you remember? Do you remember?
I remember I didn't hit him.
You never denied doing that in your statement to the police, did you?
Deny what?
You never denied hitting anybody else in the house except.
They didn't ask me if I hit anybody else. I mean, they didn't.
So you claim that you next go into the first bedroom. That was number 1.
Yes, sir.
After you got finished hitting Mr. Gleason, what happened to Mr. Gleason?
Well, after that, it was Troy hitting him.
Troy came from where?
Came from there, up behind him.
Was Gleason standing up, moving around? What was he doing? Sitting there, laying down?
No, he was trying to get up.
Get up. So Troy hits Gleason square down on the head. Does Gleason move after that?
No, sir.
And you stood there and watched it, right?
I stood there for a second.
And then where did you go?
Then I went in there, indicating.
Why did you do that?
Troy said, go help the others.
Go help the others, okay? So you go in bedroom 1 and you see a man with a stick.
Yes, sir.
Did you know his name?
Not at that time.
Have you learned now whose name it is?
Yes, sir.
Who is that?
The Vega.
Anthony Vega? What was he doing when you went in that bedroom?
Well, him Him and Cameron was swinging at each other.
So you go up, you hit Mr. Vega with the bat.
Yes, sir.
How many times did you swing at Mr. Vega?
Not too many times. It was a few times.
And you keep hitting him until he drops the stick or the bat that he has. Is that right?
Well, after the first time I hit him, he dropped the stick.
Then you hit him again.
Well, after he dropped it, Mr. Cannon hit him, and then I hit him again. Yes, sir.
Do you recall this question on page 113 from Mr. Lizeppa, your interview? How many times do you hit Dennis Vega with a bat? And you said, I don't know. You said that.
Yes, sir.
Lizeppa asks, was it more than 3 times? And you didn't answer. Lizeppa says, more than 5 times? Your answer, I'm not sure. Is that your response?
I believe so.
All right. After that, you say you started looking through the house,
Yes, sir.
and you were looking for your stuff.
Yes, sir.
And did you see somebody else injured in the house?
Did I see someone else injured?
Yeah.
Well, the only other person I saw was Mr. Gonzalez.
Do you recall in your statement, page 114, at line 18, where Zeppa asked, did you see anybody else that's been injured in that house? And your answer was, no, just the closet. Go out to the porch.
Yes, sir.
Was that your answer then?
Yes, sir.
You said no, you didn't see anybody else injured in the house, correct?
Right. That's what I said.
Was that true?
No, sir.
So you were lying in your statement.
If that's what you want to call it, I guess so. Yeah.
Well,
At that point.
you didn't say just no after that. Then you said just the closet.
Right.
And then you go out to the porch.
Yes, sir.
Why did you say just the closet if you were asked? Did you see anybody else injured in the house?
That's when I stepped into bedroom 2 where Mr. Gonzalez was, and I looked in the closet for the stuff.
So you were looking in the closet for your stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
Go back to bedroom 1 when you were hitting Vega. Doesn't he fall down?
No, sir.
At some point, don't you come back in and look in the closet for bedroom 1?
No, sir.
Don't you see Michelle Nathan in that closet?
No, sir.
Wasn't she hiding in there?
No, sir. I didn't see her.
What are you looking for? Her stuff? Your stuff?
Yes, sir. I didn't go back into bedroom 1.
So you checked all the closets except bedroom 1 for your stuff.
Well, actually, the closet I checked was in bedroom 2.
All right. After leaving, you got back to Fort Smith at some time, and didn't you have some blood in your clothes?
No, sir. Not visually.
So what did you do with your clothes that night?
Wash them.
You always wash your clothes every night when you come home?
Well, it was a lot of laundry. It needs to be done.
So you washed your clothes and the shoes you were wearing at Fort Smith that night, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you got back from Telford, and isn't it true that you were wearing blue and white Nike shoes?
Yes, sir.
And you told the investigators in your statement that you wore white and blue Nike shoes, right?
Yes, sir.
And that they were also at the Fort Smith house, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the exhibit your counsel showed you, these shoes here are blue and white Nike shoes. I think it's exhibit 41, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you washed your shoes.
Yes, sir.
These are your shoes.
If they're a size 10.5, no.
Why not?
9.5 is the largest I ever wear.
What do you wear?
9.5 is the largest I ever wear.
So these aren't too small for you, are they?
No, sir. Just too big.
Next is cross-examination by Mr. Canner. Okay, there was an Xbox involved, wasn't there? The GameCube?
Yes, sir. 2 Xboxes and a GameCube was among some of the items that was taken out of the house.
Now, you were pretty angry that you got kicked out of the Providence house. You thought you had a right to be there, right?
Well, I mean, I wasn't too angry about that. No.
Well, that was okay with you?
I mean, of course I didn't like it, but I mean, I wasn't like stressing over it.
Well, you thought that Erin knew that it was okay for you to stay there, didn't you?
Right.
Okay, it didn't seem fair that she got you kicked out, right?
I mean, after that, I just thought that Joshua had lied about it.
Well, you felt like that you were kicked out of the house unjustly, and Erin was responsible for that, didn't you?
Yes, sir, I guess.
And you were mad as fire at the Abbeys. You had some beefs with them, Abby G especially.
Yeah.
You saw Abby G at the house when you all went up there Wednesday night, or, I'm sorry, Sunday night.
Yes, sir.
Actually, Sunday morning. It was Saturday night and the Sunday mornings, August 1st. It was August 1st you went up there, right?
I believe so.
Okay, and we've kind of run that back and forth. It was actually Sunday morning that you were all up there with the girls.
Nods head.
Okay, and those are pretty rough girls, those Kogan sisters and their friends, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
They cut the tires of the car there, didn't they?
I didn't exactly see them cut the tires, but they say they did.
Yeah, and they broke one guy's cell phone that had come outside.
Right.
Then old Abby G's in there cussing at you and screaming, and you all were kind of hollering back and forth, right?
Right.
This thing got a little heated. And then finally, I think Blanco hollers, Policia, or something like that. And everybody says, whoop, time to get out of here, right?
Right.
So then you started back, and Troy is just still going on and on about his stuff. And that's about the time you tell him, hey, cool it. Man, it's it's not worth it, something like that.
Right.
Then there comes a time when you and he are together, and I guess he actually has this conversation. This is that Wednesday night after he took a shot at the car. Now, that's pretty serious stuff, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now, some people are afraid of guns, but most of us are, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
And you started shooting at a car with people in it. That's scary.
Yes, sir.
And then he's sitting there kind of fondling his pistol. He's looking and giving you the evil eye.
Yes, sir. Because I was disagreeing. I mean, because I was telling him, just drop it.
You're trying to calm him down, trying to talk some sense.
Right.
And this thing, we're getting to killing people when you start shooting guns, right?
Right.
Then you feel like he turns on you, or at least he's directing some ugly attention towards you.
Yes, sir.
And you felt that he might even kill your family,
Yes, sir.
and kill you for that matter.
Right.
So looking at this man and knowing him, you believe he's capable of slaughtering you and your family if you cross him.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty heavy duty, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And then it's Thursday that I think Cannon and Salas show up, and they have Brandon Graham with them, I think, when they come to Fort Smith, right?
Yes, sir.
Then you heard Brandon. Brandon said that actually Troy starts talking about property up there that was taken from Providence. And now Abby G is no good. And he's mad about Erin. That whole thing's kind of boiling along. And that's the way he's talking. He's mad about it.
Yes, sir.
Wants to get his stuff.
Yes, sir.
But you don't remember any talk about, and we'll try to say it the New York way, getting some niggas together and doing it to these people.
No, sir. I don't recall that exactly.
Well, what exactly do you recall? I know there's some talk like that. What do you recall?
Well, first of all, he didn't say anything about getting some people together. He just said, we need to go over there.
And you got everyone to agree.
Right.
So the gun's still there, or at least the gun is back at the house because Cannon is the owner of the gun.
Yes, sir.
And there comes a time you actually go looking for more bullets, right?
No, sir. Never went anywhere to look for any bullets.
You don't remember looking for any bullets at all?
No, sir.
Do you remember how many bullets were left in the gun?
Yes, sir.
How many?
One.
One. That's not enough for 6 people. Is it? Unless you line them all up. Couldn't kill 6 people with 1 bullet, probably, right?
Of course not.
So there came a time that you dropped Brandon Graham off.
Yes, sir.
In fact, when everybody was kind of agreeing with Troy, you kind of felt like it was a pressure thing, that you kind of had to agree with Troy.
Right.
And Brandon Graham, the same way. He's kind of hiding, kind of hanging his head back, not even looking. He's saying, yeah, okay, that kind of thing, right? I'm in, or okay, something like that.
He said, yeah, he would go.
I mean, you didn't even answer. You just nodded your head, right?
Right.
Now, this is high pressure stuff. Then you drop Brandon Graham off at Craddock's place, right?
Right.
And use the telephone. I think Cannon tried to call him and said, look, don't tell Craddock about what we're doing, right?
Right.
Okay, and then later, when the 4 of you got back together, you can't raise Brandon. Craddock says Brandon's visiting his brother in the hospital, something like that. He kind of checked out on him.
From what I heard.
Okay, after you left Brandon at Craddock's, where did you and Troy go? And where did Salas and Cannon go? Did you stay together?
No, sir. I don't think so.
Okay, you kind of separated for about 3 hours, didn't you? Supposed to get back together around 7 o'clock?
Later on that night. Yes, sir.
There's a period of time that you all were apart. You didn't even stay with Troy that whole time, did you? I mean, you didn't stay right together.
No, sir.
But eventually, you do get back together. About what time of night did you all get back together? I know you got to the 7-Eleven around 11:10 or something like that. But about what time did you first get back together, the 4 of you, or first, you and Troy?
I can't exactly recall what time.
Okay, was it after dark?
Yes, sir.
Now, with regard to the attack on the house, before the actual attack began, Troy Victorino kind of snuck up and looked at the windows to see where people were positioned, right?
Right.
And he kind of did a reconnoiter. He kind of scouted it out. You guys hung back, I guess, inside, in the bushes or the woods.
Yes, sir.
You didn't go peek in the windows, did you?
No, sir.
Okay, none of the other guys, as far as you saw.
As far as I saw, no, sir.
So he comes back and reports and tells you there's a couple of dudes there in the living room with the television on, right?
Yes, sir.
And one in the recliner and one on the floor.
Yes, sir.
And he says that the others are in the bedrooms, right?
I guess that was his assumption. Yeah, in the bedroom.
Now, as I understand it, you beat Jonathan Gleason on the bat more times than you know, correct?
I don't know the exact number.
And it was Jonathan Gleason, the young man in the recliner, the 17-year-old that you knew from high school.
Right.
Then you pursued Mr. Gonzalez in that bedroom too, didn't you?
No, sir.
Who pursued him in there?
Mr. Salas.
And what did Mr. Salas do when he ran him in there?
Well, he hit him with the bat.
A bunch of times, didn't he?
I didn't exactly see how many times.
You heard him screaming that he didn't even live there, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
And you could hear Erin Belanger screaming from that bedroom over on the right side when things first got started, couldn't you?
No, sir, I can't recall.
You can't recall that girl screaming for her life?
No, sir.
Did you hear any girl screaming for their life?
No, sir.
Did you hear the thud of metal bats on people's bones?
No, sir.
You didn't even hear the bat that Troy Victorino slammed into Jonathan Gleason's head, and you're standing right there?
I mean, I wasn't listening for sounds. I mean, I just didn't.
You're not saying these sounds weren't there, you just weren't paying any attention to them, is that what you're saying?
Right.
And then you picked in the door to Mr. Vega's bedroom.
No, sir.
Who did?
Cannon did it.
Cannon did that. And Mr. Vega's fighting for his life with Cannon and maybe holding his own, right?
Right.
But you tilted the balance. You came in and whacked him and took his weapon away from him by knocking it out of it, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You hit him a couple more times at least.
Yes, sir.
Then he's still on his feet and he's still fighting Cannon. And for some reason, you just walk out of the room.
Well, I'm going to say I didn't get to finish saying what I was going to say earlier. But while me and Cannon was there, Troy came up to the door and he said something. The guy said something to him in Spanish and he said something back and
Go ahead.
he just said something back. And then the guy's eyes just kind of got wide or whatever. Then Troy like pushed me and Cannon out of the way and he started hitting the guy.
And in fact, even when you speak Spanish, when you ask a question, it has that question mark sound, doesn't it? Like, see?
Right.
Okay, you can tell Mr. Vega, as he was speaking to Mr. Victorino in Spanish, that he was begging for his life. Is that what it sounded like?
No, sir.
What did it sound like?
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, he just said something in Spanish.
So you stepped out of the room and let him finish Mr. Vega off.
Then that's when Mr. Salas called for help.
All right, where was Salas?
He was in bedroom 2
Okay,
with Mr. Gonzalez.
he was beating someone in that room, right?
Right.
And how did he say, when he called for help, what did he say?
Yo, come help me.
What was his exact words? I mean, was he screaming, help, or help me, blankety blank, help me? I mean, what's he saying?
Something like that.
Yeah, cussing and screaming? Now, this is a fight going on. People are fighting for their lives, aren't they? Aren't they?
Yes, sir.
And so you ran in and helped him.
No, sir.
What did you do?
Well, that's when Cannon backed up. He went in and I kind of stepped in right there in the doorway. And that's when I moved over to the closet.
All right, so Mr. Cannon, now they've done in Mr. Vega, so Mr. Cannon runs in and helps jump on Roberto Gonzalez, beating him with a bat.
Yes, sir.
That's where the blood is splattered all over the corner. That looks like an explosion, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Is that yes?
Yes, sir.
So while they're mashing his head into mush, you're in the closet looking for your stuff, right?
Right. I had looked in there.
And then you went over next door to bedroom number 1, where Michelle Nathan is cowering and hiding and had been overlooked.
No, sir.
When did you see Michelle?
I didn't.
Oh, you knew there was supposed to be a woman in that bedroom.
No, sir.
You knew the plan was to kill everyone in the house.
No, sir.
Then you say something really different happened that no one knew about before and you never told the police about, right? And that was everybody left and then Troy wants to go back.
Right.
And he gets a knife from Mike.
Well, he had already had the knife then, but he got it from him earlier.
Okay, so Mike had given him his switchblade.
Right.
And he goes back and he gets out of the vehicle.
Right.
And all of you remain in the vehicle except him.
Right. Well,
Go ahead.
might have stepped out, but he didn't go anywhere from the vehicle. He stepped right by the door and he stayed there.
Well, you say he's in there about 10 minutes and he comes back out and he's wiping the blood off the knife.
No, it wasn't no 10 minutes, a few minutes, about 3, 4 minutes, 2, 3.
Well, did you see anyone stabbing people before you left?
No, sir.
You sure you don't want to mention anything about the knife except for having it in Mr. Victorino's hands, right?
Right. I didn't have any knife.
And the last person you want to talk about is Michelle Ann Nathan, right?
I didn't have anything to do.
Now, you recall that statement on August 7th to Investigator Orzeppa and Seymour?
Yes, sir.
And you recall, I'm referring to page 33, Investigator Orzeppa at line 16 asked you, and he says, a knife was used. Do you remember seeing a knife and who used it? Because somebody got pretty ugly and vicious with a knife. Which one did that? And we have at line 20, no verbal response. That means you didn't answer. Why didn't you answer?
I don't know.
Could it be because there's a different story as to who used that knife and you know it?
No, sir.
It's not possible that you used that knife, is it?
No, sir. Absolutely not. No, sir.
I mean, you wouldn't come across a girl in a closet that you knew from high school and stab her and beat her to death, would you?
No, sir.
You're too nice a guy, right?
I wouldn't do that.
You recall making a statement to Investigator Orzeppa on August the 7th in Seymour, right?
Right.
And you were advised of your rights before you made those statements, right?
At some point.
Yes, if you recall, Investigator Orzeppa asked you, you don't remember anyone else anyone using a knife while you were in there? Think about it. Do you recall what your answer was?
Not exactly. I don't recall.
I asked you to look at line 23, and it begins with your name, Jerome Hunter, and there's your answer. Now, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
What did you tell him when he asked you that question? You don't remember anyone using a knife while you were in there. Think about it. What was your answer?
I said I really wasn't paying any attention. It was Tracy in there.
You had to get the knife out of your hands and put it in his, didn't you?
No, sir.
That's what you've done here today, isn't it? That's what you tried to do.
No, sir.
Now there's cross-examination by Mr. Nielsen. Mr. Hunter, isn't it true the lion's share, the majority of the property that was stored at Providence Home was yours, not Mr. Victorino's?
The what?
The property that was at the Providence Home was mostly yours, isn't that correct?
No, sir.
You remember in your interview?
I said that, but it wasn't mostly mine.
Okay, so it was a lie.
Pretty much. I don't really know why I said it, but I said it. I don't.
I don't know why you said a lie, but that was incorrect then when you said it to the police. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Now you got me confused. The statement you made to the police about the stuff mostly being yours was true. It was not a lie.
No, it was not true.
Okay, isn't it true also, Mr. Hunter, that you had seen Mr. Abbey, whichever one it is, Abbey G, Abbey M, wearing your clothes and it made you furious?
No, sir. I saw him wearing Mr. Victorino's shirt and shoes.
And you said that Troy Victorino kicked in the front door and waited for you to go in. Is that what you said?
Right. Waited for all three of us to go in.
Isn't it true, sir, that Mr. Victorino was not there that night and you were the one that kicked in the door?
No, sir.
Well, you say you went in first, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, you ran in, went over to Mr. Gleason, started hitting him with a bat, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You yelled at Mr. Gleason, I know you know where my stuff is, isn't that right?
I asked him where it was.
Okay, and he said to you, I don't know, and you still went on and hit him, isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
Who is Nicole? You got a friend named Nicole?
Which one are you talking about? Koga? Whatever?
I think Nicole Wells. Didn't you pay a visit to her the night before or the night that you went over to Telford? Do you remember stopping by and seeing her? Her grandmother had recently died and there was a funeral going on?
That's Nicole Koga.
Okay, there were a bunch of people at the house, basically condolences for the death and the family. Do you remember that?
Right.
You remember telling her how you were going to take care of some business that night? Do you remember that?
No, sir. It wasn't that night that her grandmother had died.
All right, sir. Now, you were some type of all-star athlete in high school, isn't that right?
You could say that.
You were and still are some type of wrestling legend in that community down there in Volusia County, aren't you?
I guess so.
Your name is well known, Jerome Hunter, famous wrestler.
Yes, sir. I guess so.
Now, wrestling is one of the toughest competitive sports in school, isn't it? Conditioning-wise, the physicality that's involved and all that, isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
You got to be tough to be a wrestler. You got to be tough as nails, don't you?
I guess.
And to be one of the best, that means you got to be tougher than anyone else. It's already tough to be a wrestler. Now you're kind of above them. You're really tough, true?
I guess so.
You said that you didn't need a bat because you can handle any situation that comes up, and you don't carry a bat. Whoever said you carried a bat is wrong, isn't that true?
Right.
And you're the stud wrestler, Mr. Hunter, and you can handle yourself probably in almost every situation you come across, isn't that correct?
Wouldn't be every situation.
And you're going to try to tell us that you're afraid of Mr. Victorino with all of your athletic skills and training and whatever else you have. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir. I mean, I'm not.
How many street fights have you been in, Mr. Hunter?
You mean throughout my life?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You ever lose one?
No.
Didn't think so. Now, you said that this deal at the park, you're asking questions about, wasn't one of the reasons you wanted Troy Victorino was because of his size and demeanor. And you said that was seconded. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, sir.
And you're trying to tell me that you, Salas, Cannon, and Graham can't take on the Abbey boys? That's not,
It wasn't just them. It was a lot more. A lot of.
and you're the tough guy, remember, Ron, wrestling? And you said after you went back to Fort Smith, Troy was angry and mad, and he had a gun. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And you were afraid, and that made you scared, is that right?
Pretty much from what he said.
Did you ever handle that gun? You ever touch it? Say, Troy, can I look at it?
I touched the gun.
Yeah, you did, right? You had it in your hands, didn't you?
I had it in my hands before.
Why didn't you take that gun and say, Troy, I'm out of here. I'm so scared I'm out of here. Why didn't you do that, Jerome? You had the gun.
It wasn't. That was before he had.
Did you handle the gun after that incident?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, how many times has Troy Victorino done something bad to your family?
He hadn't done anything bad.
How many times has Troy Victorino hurt your family, Mr. Hunter?
Never.
When you were staying with Mr. Victorino over there, did you ever use the bathroom?
Where?
Fort Smith?
Yeah.
You couldn't have left?
You mean, what do you mean? I mean, I'm saying he,
You're saying
Wednesday night when he made that statement.
Did Mr. Victorino ever sleep when the two of you were staying together?
Yes.
I guess you could have gone anywhere you wanted then, right?
Yeah.
The man took you in and gave you a place to stay, Jerome. That's what you said.
Right.
He helped you out. He's not scaring you and making you do things. Isn't that true?
No, not exactly.
And he said that after leaving, check that. He said that after 7-Eleven, you went to Papa Joe's. Is that correct?
Right.
Then after that, you stopped back at Fort Smith. You said that, correct?
Right.
Now, let me talk to you a little bit about this Telford situation. Isn't it true, Jerome, that the bat that you used was a bat that you picked out yourself?
No, that wasn't no specific bat or anything.
Isn't it true that you were also responsible for throwing those bats into that retention pond after washing them off?
No, sir.
That wasn't you?
No, sir.
Now, you said you went in, you ran over and hit Mr. Gleason. You took care of him. But it was Troy that came over and also hit him, correct?
Yes, sir.
But meanwhile, you've also said that what happened when you first went in is you went that way and Troy went to the right, to the back bedroom, correct?
Right.
And then sometime after that, while he's simultaneously killing Erin and Mr. Roman, he's killing Gleason. Now he's also killing Vega, all at the same time.
No, not all at the same time. He was going through the house.
Okay, you're basically just sitting back and observing, take some body blows, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Victorino was so busy doing what he was doing, according to you, and you being that star athlete that you are, why didn't you want out of there when you said you thought things were going wrong? Why didn't you leave, sir?
I don't know.
Would you agree that you hit Mr. Vega in the head at least 30 times?
No, sir.
Mr. Hunter, Mr. Tanner was asking you some questions, and you were putting up pretty strong denial. Isn't it true, though, that you found Michelle Nathan in that closet, isn't it?
No, sir.
And you were about to leave that bedroom, and you heard a little, indicating, rattling in that closet, and you busted open the doors, and you saw her sitting there in the fetal position. Isn't that correct, sir?
No, sir.
And you pulled her out, and you said, "You're going to die, bitch." You remember that?
No, sir.
And you took your knife, and you slit her throat. You remember that?
No, sir.
And you repeatedly stabbed her, and then you took your bat and hit her multiple times in the back of the head.
No, sir.
Isn't that what you did, Mr. Hunter?
No, sir.
And isn't it further true that it was you, when you alone took the knife and went around and stabbed every one of those victims? Isn't that true?
No, sir.
And that took place before anyone else left that house the first time. Isn't that true?
I did not stab or cut anyone's throat in that house.
Okay. Well, the only knife that was used in this case that we got back had the victim's blood on it. You remember seeing that in court?
Yes, sir.
That wasn't a switchblade knife. You said the knife that he had was given was a switchblade knife.
It was.
And that blood that's on that knife is what? Right where you left it after you got done stabbing those victims, isn't it?
No, sir.
You said the knife that was used to stab the victims was taken out and washed off and cleaned. Remember saying that?
I didn't see him stab or cut anyone's throat.
You remember saying that you saw the knife that was used to stab and stick the victims was being washed off,
I said the knife that he had.
was being washed off and cleaned.
Right.
The knife with the victim's blood was found right in that house, sir. How do you explain that?
That, I don't know.
Uh-huh. And your testimony is that you get done killing 6 people. You actually get out of there without getting caught, and you go back later. That's your testimony.
Yes, sir.
And you've never mentioned that before, ever, to any statement.
Not in that interview. Not that day. Only then.
And the clothes that you had, you said you washed, and you did tell the police that night, black shorts, black sweatshirt, white and blue shoes, correct?
Correct.
And you actually used the word Nike to describe the white and blue shoes, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And your shoe size is not 10.5, is it?
No, sir.
What is it?
It's 8.5 to 9.5.
You said 9.5 earlier, didn't you, Mr. Hunter?
Right. Yes, sir.
Redirect example by Mr. Banquist. Jerome, when you went into the house in Telford, were there any lights on the TV in that living room area?
Not in the living room. I believe there was one on in the kitchen.
Okay, was it essentially dark in there except for the TV screen?
In that area.
Could you really tell who was in there initially?
No, sir.
Now, Mr. Tanner asked you about going to look for bullets. Did you actually, or did Mr. Victorino actually go and look for bullets, or did you do something else?
No, sir.
What did he do?
He was, I don't know if it was Cannon or Salas called PETA.
So he wanted to call someone else to find some bullets.
Yes, sir.
Is that essentially what you think Mr. Tanner's getting at, going to look for bullets?
I don't know what he's getting at.
No one actually went out of the house, went to the store, tried to buy bullets, or went to somebody else's house.
No, sir.
Okay, it would be fair to say when things got going in that house, it was pretty much a blur as to, just inconceivable what was happening, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
Do you speak Spanish?
No, sir.
Mr. Tanner made a big point about knowing a question in Spanish or knowing some Spanish. You don't speak Spanish at all, correct?
No, sir. I don't speak it.
And Mr. Nielsen kept making the point about you being a tough guy. When you were in wrestling, you go into conditioning, right?
Right.
You work out?
Right.
And there's a difference between a tough guy and someone who is well conditioned, wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir.
I mean, do you consider yourself some kind of a tough street thug?
No, sir.
You feel you're a pretty well-conditioned athlete?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nielsen asked you about the handgun and touching the handgun. I don't think you really let me answer your question, but when did you touch the gun?
I touched it right after we had got out of the expedition.
So you looked at it outside, not when you and Troy were sitting there in the house together.
Not then. No, sir.
Mr. Nielsen asked you about, well, the knife that's in evidence had the victim's blood on it, right? Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And the knife that you say Mr. Victorino had wasn't found in the house, was it?
No, sir.
It was removed from the house, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
By Mr. Victorino, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
And he's the one that told Mike Salas to clean it up.
Yes, sir.
A recross-examination by Mr. Nielsen. So now we have a new fact. He carried 2 knives with him, is that correct?
That's not what I said.
That concludes the testimony.
Thank you. You guys want to stand up for just a moment? Stretch.
Are we able to take a short break so we can get, that's going to be the end of the evidence other than victim impact?
We can do that. That's actually even better. So even better than standing up and stretching. Let's do a 15-minute break. So please be back at 2:20. Please don't discuss.
Okay, so they're going to take a break and then they're going to get into impact statements, and that's going to be the end of it. And then I think the jury gets it to take to trial, and they left the mic on during all that. So,
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
all right, here we go. This is going to be rough. I'm gonna pause this. And this is my content warning. My get your tissues out, whatever. Your blankie, whatever your security devices that you use for emotional support, because these are impact statements, and I listened to very little of a couple of them, and they're very, very, yeah, they're just heartbreaking. So with that, I'm going to hit play, and I might have to turn off my camera for a few minutes.
6 victims, so the state is going to go family by family.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
The first family is for Erin Belanger. State would call Lauren Fletcher. Do you want her sworn in, Judge?
I think, why don't we, if anybody that we have that's going to be making a statement, please raise your right hands to be sworn.
You and all of you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Can you step to the podium here? You're going to speak into the mic and stay facing towards the judge and directly towards the judge, please.
Ma'am, could you please state your name for the record?
Lauren Fletcher.
Are you related to one of the victims in this case?
Yes, I'm the paternal aunt of Erin Margaret Belanger. She was my brother's daughter.
Have you prepared a victim impact statement in order to express your loss to this jury?
Yes, I have.
Please read your statement at this time.
Thank you. I would like to share with you all what the loss of Erin has meant to me. We were all so proud of Erin's dream to begin a new chapter of her life here in Florida with her boyfriend Francisco, also known as Flaco, but little could we foresee how it would end in such a tragic way. Erin was a ray of sunshine. She was the most patient and loving girl anyone could wish to know. For the past 20 years, I have and will forever miss Erin's beautiful smile, green eyes, and deep husky voice. Erin was never afraid of being different and always stood her ground. She was a unique individual and full of potential. Unfortunately, Erin was never to fulfill that potential due to the events of August 6, 2004. I remember getting the heartbreaking news and hope beyond all hope that there was a possibility that Erin was not one of the deceased. That realization was soon dispelled. Our family quickly gathered at home of our parents, with the exception of my brother, who lived approximately 1 hour away. My sisters, my father, and myself soon headed to my brother's home in order to support him in any way possible. In the following days, one of my most vivid memories following Erin's murder was that of my brother entering our family home, dropping to his knees with his head in our mother's lap, stating, "Mom, they have killed my baby." Another vivid memory is that of Erin in her boyfriend Flaco's ashes, of scattering Erin and her boyfriend Flaco's ashes into the Boston Harbor. I was memorized and full of sorrow, watching their intermingled ashes swirling to the depths, followed by pink and blue flowers. For many years following the murder of my sweet niece, I was unable to think of her without remembering how her life ended. I used to look into the eyes of my brother and I saw the deep pain he was forced to live with each day until he recently passed away in 2001. I've heard it said many times that time heals all wounds. I can assure you it does not. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, leave those in there. Or you want me to wait?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
At this time, Lauren is going to read her brother Bill Belanger's statement that was, he testified, and
The
so
original.
she's going to read that statement.
Okay. So this is, and my brother Billy. Erin was my only child. She was compassionate, honest, caring, trustworthy, and trusting. I love her all the more for these qualities. Erin expressed these ideals with family, friends, and acquaintances in every aspect of her life. There was no stranger in Erin's life, in Erin's world, only potential friends. Erin's murder was the worst horror that I or any member of my family could have imagined. My entire family suffers daily under the agony of this senseless tragedy. It has been said that no parent should ever have to bury a child. We treasure the light of Erin's memory as we've tried to cope with the darkness of her murder. From the time that I received the terrible news, I could not function at my job. The sorrow was unbearable and the anger overwhelming. I needed and sought professional counseling, and with the help of continued psychiatric support, was finally able to return to work. The lost time at work is nothing, but the loss of my only child will burn with me forever. A light in my life has been extinguished. Not an hour goes by, but my thoughts go to Erin, asking what words I could have said, what actions I could have taken, and what could have been that should have been. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't go far because you're going to do the photos.
Okay.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would call Christine Belanger, who is on Zoom.
Thank you. We should be able to hear you, ma'am. Thank you.
Christine, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Christine Silva.
Are you related to one of the victims in this case?
I am the paternal aunt of Erin Belanger.
Have you prepared a victim impact statement in order to express your loss to this jury?
I have.
Please read your statement at this time.
My beautiful niece, Erin Belanger, has been gone for nearly as long as she lived. She's not gone due to illness or accident, but because of murder. So much pain has been heaped upon myself and my family. I find myself in the position of having to bear my soul, my heartache, my pain. My Erin loved life. She loved her fellow humanity. She was good and kind. I couldn't keep Erin safe. And that's a weight I will carry until the day I die. Never again will I regain the implicit trust I once had in humanity. That has been taken from me. My days, my nights are not as peaceful as they once were. The enormity of this murder has touched me. I will certainly not outlive the effects of this, and the heartache that is inflicted on me will forever be part of my being. These are hard thoughts to live with. Erin was a light in the life of my beautiful parents, both of whom are gone now. They both died of a broken heart. Erin was the light in the life of my baby brother, Billy. He's gone now. As the result of his only child being murdered, he too left this world with a broken heart. I will leave this world with a broken heart. So will the many who've been affected by these murders. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
At this time, Your Honor, state would call Gina Belanger.
Yes, ma'am, can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay, we can hear you. Mr. Gomes?
Can you please state your name for the record?
Gina Belanger.
And are you related to one of the victims in this case?
I was Erin Belanger's stepmother.
Have you prepared a victim impact statement in order to express your loss to this jury?
Yes,
Please read your statement at this time.
it's been over 20 years since we received that horrific, mind-numbing phone call that our daughter Erin was murdered. Sleepless nights, gut-wrenching stomach pain, the complete mind fog trying to go forward with all the wounds to the heart. I unfortunately no longer have my husband, Bill, Erin's father, to help me navigate this quagmire of pain and sorrow. Bill died 4 years ago with a broken heart that never healed of the struggle and guilt of having financed Erin and Flacco's move to Florida under the assumption that we would be helping them have a better life. The cost of living wasn't as expensive in Florida as it was in New England for two people trying to get their young lives started. Their future seemed so bright. Erin's murder has impacted my life in so many ways. Bill and I ended up in counseling after Erin's murder, trying to maneuver how to go forward in our lives and our marriage, and how to manage the anger that resulted from the murder of Erin and 5 other innocent people. Mother's Day will be here soon, and inevitably I will be asked if I have any children. Technically, I no longer do. But if I say no, it negates Erin's life. If I say not any longer, it leads to additional questions, and I feel the need to protect the person who has essentially asked me an innocent question. I feel the need not to be blunt and say she was murdered and is no longer with us, to shield myself from the horror that will be on their face, and now I've suddenly made them feel uncomfortable. In some instances, Bill and I became estranged from friends and even some family who were unable to comprehend the struggle to navigate our lives and expecting us to get over it. How can I get over it when 20 years later, I'm right back here to August 6, 2004?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
At this time, Your Honor, the state prepared a presentation of some photos for each of the victims, and we would like to get started with that for Erin Belanger.
Okay, thank you.
Lauren,
Yes,
who do we see there?
that is Erin at probably 3 or 4 years old. And that was her with my brother, and I believe they were in Disney World at the time, so she was probably about 8 or 10 there. Oh, that's a picture my sister Chris used to do photography, and they went out one day and had a photo session, and that picture always haunted me because she looked so pensive, doesn't she? Yeah, beautiful picture. And this was her glam shot, because every 16-year-old needs a glam shot with the jewels and that, so, yeah.
How about here?
This is Erin with her half-sister, Jennifer. And I believe that was at Jen's wedding. So she was probably about 20 at that time, 20, maybe 21. And that's her and Flacco, or Roman, Francisco Roman
Yes.
at that wedding. Yes, yep. And that's another beautiful picture of the two of them. They were in love. We didn't speak any English, but they managed to communicate somehow. I don't know how.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Gomez?
Your Honor, at this time, Vicki Schwartz from the State Attorney's Office is going to read a letter of Lucy Santiago Bonilla, who is the sister-in-law of Francisco Ayo-Roman.
To whom it may concern. Hello, my name is Luz Santiago Bonillo. I am the sister-in-law of Francisco Ayo-Roman. When I first met my husband, Benjamin Bonilla, we started talking about our families. He had mentioned to me he had a brother and a sister that were put up for adoption when he was 10 years old. He was so sad every time we talked about this because he had missed them so much. I could tell there was something missing from his life, and I wanted to help fill it. So I began my search. Although I had no luck finding his sister, after various phone calls, I had found his brother, Francisco Ayo-Roman. He was living in Puerto Rico. So one day I yelled to Benjamin, "Someone is on the phone." To his surprise, it was his little brother. I have never in my life seen him so happy. They talked for a long time and had a wonderful conversation. They continued to keep touch over the phone and talked about meeting again someday. Well, in November of 1998, I had a surprise birthday party for Benjamin, and little did he know I had an extra surprise for him. I had phoned Francisco and asked him to come for a visit, and he was very excited when I told him I was sending him a ticket to fly to Mass for a visit. So I had to tell Benjamin we had to go to the airport to pick up my friend's son, and I asked him if he could drive me, so he agreed. When I had spoke to Francisco on the phone, he had told me what he looked like and what he would be wearing, and he told me he was very tall. He said, "When you see all the people come out of the terminal, I will be the tallest one, and all the people will be down there." We both laughed. So when it was time, I was videotaping, waiting for someone that fit the description he gave me. Then there he was. He was right. He was so tall, I knew right away it was him. I waved to him excitedly and pointed to Benjamin. Francisco went over to Benjamin, who had no idea who Francisco was, and said, "Hey, can you give your little brother a hug?" Benjamin was crying, and he gave him a very big hug. He didn't want to let go. From the airport, we went to my house in Lowell, Mass, where he would stay with us for 2 weeks. We all had such a wonderful time and really enjoyed his visit. Francisco was so funny. He was making us laugh so much. He had a great sense of humor. He was a very honest and kind person. He was the kind of person that is always there for you if you need anything. We were all very sad when it was time for him to leave. We kept in touch over the phone, and about 1 year later, Francisco decided to move to Mass to get to know his family better. Francisco and Benjamin developed a wonderful relationship. They were very close. Benjamin was so happy to have his brother back. After a few weeks living here, Francisco came to me and said, "I know I don't speak very good English, but I want to get a job and try to learn." So I said, okay. I got him a job with me driving a van. He was a big help to me at work. He was always there if I needed him. Then after a couple years, he wanted to try something different. So I brought him to a local nursing home. He wanted to try to get a job in the kitchen. So we went in and asked the receptionist and said he would like an application. So she handed it to me and I started filling it out. And the lady said, "Excuse me, I would like him to fill it out so I can see how much he understands." Francisco took the application and said proudly, "I will fill it myself, no problem." And he did the best he could do, and they hired him right away. And that would be where he would soon meet his girlfriend, Erin Belanger. I remember the first day he met her, he came home so happy and said, "Lucy, I met the most beautiful blondie girl. She's so nice." And he was right. She was a very nice and polite girl. She didn't speak any Spanish, and Francisco didn't speak very good English, but somehow they communicated well together. It was like they were made for each other. They dated for about 8 months. Then they decided to move to Florida to start a new life together. We were so sad to see him move away, but we knew he was very happy with Erin, so we were happy for him. He would phone often. The last time I talked to him was about a week before he was murdered. He called me and was so happy. He told me he and Erin had a surprise for us and they were coming to visit next month. We were excited to hear that and could not wait to see them again. Then August of 2004, I was driving my daughter to work and she was reading a newspaper on the way. And as soon as she seen the front page, she started screaming. She had seen a horrific story in the paper and noticed it had said Erin Belanger and her boyfriend and 4 of their friends were murdered in Florida. I couldn't believe it. I turned my van around and went home to my husband and showed him the paper. He didn't believe it either. He kept putting the paper down, saying, "That is not my brother." And finally, he broke down crying, and he had to accept that it was Francisco. Benjamin had called the police station and found out what happened, and he lost it. From that day, my husband is not the same man. He used to be a very happy, friendly man. We always did fun things with our family. Now he is very depressed. He doesn't smile much anymore. When we go somewhere with our family, he never wants to come. He stays at the house by himself. Not only did these men take Francisco away, in some way they took Benjamin away from me also. It's like that missing part of his life was back and now it's gone forever. My heart goes out to all the other families and friends of the victims, for I know we are sharing the same pain. I thank you for listening to my story and appreciate your time. Sincerely, Luz and Santiago Bonillo.
Thank you.
At this time, the state calls Tina Gonzalez.
You know, I'm going to pause that for just a second. I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to say this for those that are listening. I don't know if you noticed, but hearing that story talking about bringing the brother here and all that stuff and just getting to know him, the fact that the family was never notified, he was a foreign person coming into the country from Puerto Rico. So I don't know the gist. I don't know the logistics of all of it and all that. But to know that he came here and they found out about his death through the newspaper, reading about Erin Belanger and her boyfriend. That's sad that his family had to learn that way.
Speak into the mic and stay facing towards the judge, please.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Agustina Tina Gonzalez.
Are you related to one of the victims in this case?
Yes, I am.
Who is that? It's okay.
It's my son, Roberto Gonzalez.
Have you prepared a victim impact statement in order to express your loss to this jury?
Yes, I have.
Please read your statement at this time.
Ms. Gonzalez, I want you to take a deep breath. Okay?
Thank you.
And take your time.
I'm sorry.
No apologies.
Thank you. Love you too. To know him was to love him. No greater void exists than to lose a loved one, and in our family's case, to lose two. Time as we know it has no meaning, and life has become a matter of survival more than existence. No greater pain in my family's life than to lose a son, a brother, a grandson, cousin, nephew, uncle, friend, and father. To describe the loss of Roberto Manuel Tito Gonzalez is to describe the loss of sunshine, which warms our hearts, and its many rays of light that fills everyone with love. That wonderful smile that, like the stars on a darkened night, sky lit the world with hope. It seems like an eternity since that fateful day, and yet only hours since each of my family member relives or is reminded that he is no longer with us. We lost his grandmother shortly after he was taken from us, and every day until her last breath, she kept asking, why? Why? Maybe she is the lucky one. And if our faith holds true, is now with her beloved grandson, who not even progressive Alzheimer's was able to erase his memory or her pain for his loss. We as a family have lost track of time. We function to the best of our ability, each trying to support the other and grieving in silence, solace, and together. Work has become an escape from our reality for a couple of hours, and for some, many hours for others. But the daily reminders are many, and his loss so evident in everything we do and say. Although he was away from home, we spoke to T every day and kept him up to speed with the family happenings and sought his input, or just shared and looked forward to seeing him and getting together for the holidays. That moment never came, and neither has the meaning of the holidays for us. We know he is gone, and yet by some miracle, we expect that this is all a nightmare, and he will call or maybe show up. We remember the funeral preparations, the service, and yet we never got to say goodbye. My last kiss was placed on a cold casket as I held on to every ounce of my strength to lay him to rest. Amongst the many gifts he possessed was his ability to listen and bring solace to those who were in doubt, pain, or just required a shoulder to lean on, or lending an ear. But one of his greatest gifts was his singing, and he shared that gift with everyone, young and old, friend or stranger. His greatest love was his daughter, whom he wanted to make proud and left for Florida to seek a better life for himself and her. The city was getting too violent and hope of change. He wanted to start a new life in Florida, the Sunshine State, he said. T felt that the environment was conducive only for positive things, and that it was there he would find his gold at the end of the rainbow. He shared of himself with his family and friends selflessly. Let's not forget his sense of humor, which helped him as well as others to deal with the happenings of life. He had a hard time finding employment when he first arrived, and yet he was happy, optimistic, and focused on his goal. We asked him to come home, and he told us we had taught him not to give up, and that good things come to those who wait. He landed a job at Burger King, and he sounded as if he obtained employment with a Fortune 500 firm. His words were, "It's a beginning, the sign that I'm going to make it, and I have to start somewhere." On the night he was murdered, he was to start a new job, and I am on my way, were his last words to his father. Again, my apologies. His dad, to this day, feels at fault that our son is dead. He drove him to the airport. He gave him startup money. He wanted to help his son make his dreams and goals a reality. It doesn't matter how many times he is told that he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The stories are endless, just as our lives have become an endless pit of pain. We pray and hope for our children, grandchildren, and family that they do not end up with hearts full of hate. We pray as we cry and ask why, and try to understand and try to continue living. Our family chooses to remember him for the life he brought to our lives, for the exceptional human being he was, for the wonderful memories he has left us that will never ever replace his being here with us, but help the healing process. His daughter, our daily reminder that he is in each of our hearts, and we must try and help her understand a world that has lost its value of life. Roberto Gonzalez was a beautiful human being who did not deserve to be murdered, along with those other young lives. No human being deserves that. I'm sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there also a letter from Jason Gonzalez?
Yes.
Are you able to read that?
I will try my best.
Okay.
If not, we can have someone else read it for you. You've had a tough afternoon. You okay?
Your Honor, with all due respect, He still is my son, and this is the least I could do for him now. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Jason is his brother,
Okay.
my middle son. Being asked to make an impact statement after over 20 years since my brother and his friends were murdered is tough. My brother and the other victims won't wake up another day and see their loved ones to speak to them or have another meal. Every day my family has moments we remember a moment of silliness from him, or when he sang to his daughter when she was a baby, or played handball, or all the other things that he loved to do. I named my son after my brother, and when he turned 10, he asked me why. He never met his uncle, and it's hard to put it into words. My mother spent a large amount of her career helping to establish after-school and summer programs for low-income inner-city kids. After my brother's death, that spark and energy faded. She could not put in the same energy and drive into her work. She was amazing at her job and helped so many families and kids to have better options in life. But she was never the same after losing my brother. And while still trying to be there for others, just lost a lot of that amazing energy and drive to help others. My dad, who I never seen cry, went for weeks on end about hearing my brother's murder. This will always be a wound that will never heal. Every birthday missed, every moment made without them, that will continue to impact our lives. Again, I thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
We
much.
just have some photos. You're almost done, Tina. What are we looking at here?
That's tea with my granddaughter Kayla.
And here?
That's tea hanging out in a friend's house.
Here?
That's in front of our building with Kayla.
Here?
That's my family. That's my husband. Jason is the one that's giving the bunny ears. And then that's my daughter Barbara. And T.
Here?
Kayla was a little older than me, so it's myself, Kay, and T.
Here?
That's his grandma. Myself, Tito, and my daughter Barbara.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
At this time, Your Honor, Vicki Schwartz will read 3 letters for the Jonathan Gleason family.
Hello, my name is Laura Zwicky, and I am Jonathan's sister. As of April 17th, it has been 18 years, 8 months, and 11 days since Jonathan William Richard Gleason was stolen away from us. He missed his 18th birthday by 4 days. This is a time we should have been celebrating a milestone, not a funeral. At the age of 9, I was looking forward to being a big sister. I took much pride in that role. I love holding, playing, and teaching him. He was a precious child and learned to read as young as 22 months. He was diagnosed as gifted in elementary school and always picking up all sorts of talents from music to academics. In fact, as a freshman in high school, he scored 1150 on the PSATs. The average of a senior is 1200. In his sophomore and junior years, we received every Ivy League university out there. His dream was to be a pediatrician. He would have made an amazing one too. He was so charismatic. Everyone just loved him. 2 of his passions were music and theater. He had his own band, in fact, where he was a songwriter, singer, and played the guitar, which he taught himself. His band played local venues and he grew in popularity at school and the community. He was also in his school's theater group where he won several awards for his performances. But now it has been longer than he was alive. We will never know the greatness he would have accomplished. My husband, his nieces, Madison 10 and Lily 8, will never get to meet him. Our lives have been turned upside down. I now suffer from high anxiety and mild depression. The month of August is one of the hardest months for me. My family suffers because of it. My work suffers from it, and my mental, emotional, and physical health suffer because of it. It is not right nor fair. I have a lot of resentment. The 6 innocent young lives that had a bright future waiting for them. Thank you for your time. You, the members of the jury, have met my brother, Jonathan Gleason, only through his death. He was so much more than the body you saw in pictures. He was a vibrant, brilliant young man with his entire future ahead of him. Jonathan was many things to many people. To Patricia, he was a loving, handsome, and playful teenage son. To his friends, he was a talented bandmate, a poetic, aspiring actor, a happy young man so against violence that he chose to be a vegetarian to protest the slaughter of animals. To his nephews and niece, he was Uncle John, always up for playing games in the pool, fun on the 4th of July, or teaching them how to play the guitar. To his siblings, he was a bright light who taught himself to speak many different languages, taught himself to play the guitar, read music, and in his free time, built houses for Habitat for Humanity. His dream was to be a doctor and work in an undeserved area of our country with underprivileged people. He was an honor student. He was very involved with his church. He was one of the most unique and special people that you could ever hope to meet. The impact to our lives and the lives of all those who loved him is so deeply profound that it cannot be conveyed in words. The raw void that is left by his death cannot be filled. There will be no college graduation, no doctorate, no wedding, no children, and no future for our Jonathan. There will only be memories of the wonderful son, brother, and uncle, and an overwhelming grief over what could have been, what should have been. Sincerely, Dr. Melinda Gleason, sister of Jonathan Gleason. Your Honor, members of the jury, I gratefully address the court today to talk about my son, Jonathan Gleason. Up until now, you have had to see pictures of his body and you've heard his name, but never his voice. I am his mother and his voice, and I would like to tell you a little about my boy. I cannot remember happier days than those when my children were born. I remember clearly the moment I was told I had given birth to a beautiful baby boy and the love I felt for him as I carried him in my arms and admired his little body. I remember his dad calling all of our friends and family to let them know that he had finally arrived and how proud he was to be a daddy for yet another time. Jonathan was a very special child. He was blessed with tremendous intelligence and was a gifted young man who used this intelligence in productive ways. Jonathan was one of those people that excelled at everything that he tried. He was a fast learner and thought himself of many things with much success. I remember hearing the tones to the Star Spangled Banner at church once and was wondering who was playing the piano. I walked into the room where the music was coming from to find my 9-year-old son, Jonathan, playing it. His musical abilities were so great that I immediately retained a teacher and bought him a piano. Jonathan excelled at school, being the only kid at his middle school to ever get a perfect score on the FCAT and representing his school in math competitions. Jonathan had such high SAT scores that every top school in the country wanted him to apply. To this day, I have all those letters saved with much pride, wondering what would have been of the underprivileged people he wanted to serve when he became a medical doctor and what a loss this world has suffered. I cannot remember how many theatrical performances I attended through the years where Jonathan always shined and made us proud. Jonathan was a very good writer and had many of his poems and stories published. Many of the papers and poems that he wrote were about how he felt for the underprivileged, the lonely, and those people that were different and forgotten by society. The same feelings that he had for the underdog were also carried onto the songs and music that he wrote. Jonathan had a very special room in his heart for people that needed help. He loved serving others. When he was not Cutting some older lady's lawn, he was working along the rest of the family for Habitat for Humanity. The tenderness of his heart and his strong ethical beliefs and reverence for creation were evident since he was a little boy, but more so as he took a stand for little animals and became a member of PETA 2, an organization for the ethical treatment of animals, and then turned into a vegetarian. Jonathan was active in church and liked to be involved in all the service projects that were always going on. All the older ladies at church thought of him as their grandson, and he thought of them as his grandmas. He loved his Spanish heritage and taught himself how to speak Spanish. I would teach him funny sounding words, and he was always repeating them to me when I was mad at him to make me laugh. Jonathan was a very deep thinking young man and was very knowledgeable about many things. It was so much fun to engage in conversations involving all kinds of different topics with him because of the maturity of his thoughts and the depth of his convictions. He was wise beyond his years. I can see him dancing in my mind's eyes, just like he danced in the Nutcracker and amazed all of us with his talent. I can still hear him playing his guitar, which, by the way, he also taught himself to play. And the notes still dance in my heart when I hear his favorite song by the Beatles, Imagine, a song that pretty much describes all that John was about. He was a loving brother to Laura, Melinda, Jenny, and Andrew, and at how we all missed his jokes and hours of laughter. He was always in Laura's room making jokes and acting goofy. I could hear them from my room just laughing and making fun of different things for hours. I miss Jonathan and his brother Andy concording all kinds of shenanigans. I know how much Andrew misses him. Jonathan was his best friend, and after they lost their father to cancer, Jonathan became his mentor and the one Andrew looked up to. I remember when the two of them used to play this radio game where they would pretend they were radio announcers and would take out a microphone and a tape recorder and make up their own show and then replay it to me and their friends. I miss him going in my bathroom to take a shower and listening to him sing away until there was no more hot water left. He was always singing. I miss his beautiful smile and looking into his beautiful hazel eyes that were always sparkling and full of life. I keep many boxes containing papers that I have collected since he could hold a pencil. They are full of pictures and poems and little things that he made with his hand throughout the years, and wonder at the amazing person that he was and how grateful I am that I kept them. Holidays with Jonathan were always special. He always liked helping me prepare for them and was always grateful to receive whatever you wanted to give him. I can hear him saying, "Mom, I made out like a bandit." When Andrew and I talked about him, I can feel the love he has for his brother and how much he admired him. And in his eyes, I see the pain that lives in his heart and the emptiness he feels from having lost not only his brother, but his best friend. Andy has taken upon himself to continue some of Jonathan's legacies and to continue the things that Jonathan was not able to finish, and wants to make sure that his brother is never forgotten. His sister Laurel and I always talk about him on a daily basis, and she too remembers and misses him tremendously. She taught him how to read and how to tie his shoes, and they were very close. Melinda and Jenny have also missed him, his love, his wit, and his company, as well as his nephews and niece. His grandmothers, his aunts, uncles, and the rest of the family miss him. His friends still can't accept that he is gone, that he is not there when they come to visit. I still can hear them practicing for their band performances. We celebrate his birthday every year and get together with friends and our family and remember all the funny things that he would do and say. He was our biggest cheerleader and a great source of inspiration. He was a leader, a nonconformist that believed that one person can make a difference and that we can change the world one person at a time, and that your voice counts for something. And today I bring his voice to you. How can you not miss or ever forget a person that was a pacifist, that hated violence, that fought for justice, that loved those who were easily forgotten by others, that had such love and reverence for animals, that was such a good brother, friend, and son? Never will he be forgotten. His picture is in every one of our rooms. His legacy is alive as we all continue to stand for what he stood for. His music still plays in our hearts, and the notes of his guitar call his name. I can feel his arms around me telling, "Mama, I love you," or "You go, Mom, you can do it," or just "Thanks, Mama." Though his life was short, he will forever live in our hearts. He was real to us and to the world a great loss. His innocent blood has been shed and his life cut short, but he lives in our hearts. His voice will be heard every time you meet those who loved him and knew him. I am glad that today you got to meet the real, living, breathing, wonderful person that he was. I'm glad to once again have given him life so that you can get to know him. This warm, kind-hearted person named Jonathan William Richard Gleason, born in the early hours of August 10th, 1986, and whose life was taken on August 6, 2004, at the age of 17. His life was taken, but his light still shines today. I am as honored as I was to be his mom, to be his voice.
And here I'm just going to scroll through the photographs for Jonathan Gleason. At this time, Your Honor, Vicky Schwartz is going to read the letters for Anthony Vega. There are two of them, one from Nancy Cordero, his sister, and one from Lydia Morero, his mother.
And Mr. Coates, I just wanted to ask, certainly, if there are longer letters, maybe I can give the jury a break, or are they?
Actually, it's one letter, and this one should be short. It is 3 pages or 2.5
Okay.
pages, but it's, the last one, Your Honor, will be longer because there are 2 live witnesses. So if you wanted to do a break before that.
Maybe we'll do that. Okay, thank you.
To whom it may concern, I, Nancy Cordero, sister of victim Anthony Vega, would like to submit this statement. How does one begin to describe the impact of losing someone who was more than a brother to me? He was my friend, a confidant, a shoulder I can lean on. He was my childhood hero, my Superman. I saw him as invincible, strong, fearless, and wise. My father passed away in 2001. Losing him didn't hurt me as much as losing my brother, who was the father figure in my life. I wanted him to give me away if I got married. My brother did not or will not know I was having my 3rd child, a boy who was named Sokoto Anthony, born 20 days after my brother was murdered. The shock and grief caused me to go into labor 6 weeks premature. My statement goes out to my brother and his 6 friends. You are not forgotten. Signed, Nancy Cordero.
Did you want to have a break?
Oh, well, I thought there were 2 letters.
Oh, there are. No, I'm sorry. There's only one. I
Oh,
apologize.
no, that's okay. Yeah, I think this is a good time to take a break.
So they're going to take a
15
quick
minutes.
break,
We'll be back in 15.
and they're going to come back for the last of the impact statements. What I will say, and don't come for me for saying this, this is just my opinion, my thought alone. Impact statements seem to have more impact when they're actually coming from that person, not being read off by somebody else. Now, I know that the person that is hurting and all that may not be able to get up there and read it or whatever, but in my gut and stuff, my feeling is I feel more impacted personally by it when it is someone getting up there discussing their own infliction, their own hurt and feel. So hearing somebody else read somebody's impact statement, I don't know that the judge is going to actually get that full impact of that because they're not able to express emotion behind that. So I don't know. Just my thought. Again, what happened, Hannah? Again? Yes, we're going to cry a couple more times. Okay, we got a couple. I think they're going to read 3 more and then we're done. And I don't know what's going to happen because that ends it. And then we come back tomorrow and we figure it out. So I don't know. Let's see what the judge says.
To whomever is going to read this, I'm supposed to write about the impact my son's death has had on me. I don't know if I could put all that on paper. I'm not sure if the full impact has hit me yet. I really don't know if a mother could describe or even explain the full impact of losing a child through violence, but I'll do my best. When I was first told of his death, I was in denial. Then the shock set in, and all I could think was, not my Anthony. But as days passed, I had to start accepting it. At times, I didn't want to accept the reality of it all. I looked at his pictures, which still hang in my home, and remember his birthday, which would have been on Halloween. I'm left feeling like a person with a missing limb. Losing my son has made me realize that life is short and we should not take it for granted. I've taken my days more serious and I appreciate my other children more. I take the time to say I love you more. The impact of losing my son has left me in despair and with confusion. Lydia Marrero, Anthony Vega's mother.
State calls Kay Shuckwit.
And could appear to the podium for us, please. Speak into the microphone and stay facing towards the judge.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi. I am Kay Shuckwit. This is one of the hardest things I've had to do. Never in my life would I ever think that I would be here talking about my daughter. Michelle's life once was, and the short 19 years she lived. The last time that I talked to Michelle was the night before she was murdered. She said, "I love you, Mommy. I'll see you tomorrow." But unfortunately, that didn't happen. I think of her every minute of every day. There are so many things I miss about her. Her smiling face, her goofy personality, the way she used to grab me and hug me so tight and say, "I love you, Mommy." I miss who'd she be today and still can't believe she's gone. Only God knows how much I miss her. No one can ever take her place. Anyone who knew her, she would always make them smile. If you were having a bad day, just being around Michelle would turn that bad day into a good day. Michelle loved her time at the beach and just hanging around with her family and friends. Michelle was definitely her own person. She never pretended to be anything that she wasn't. Michelle would always call to ask how soon and how much longer before her niece, my granddaughter, was going to be born. She was so excited to be an aunt to her niece, Emily Michelle, who was named after her. I've tried to fill the void with so many things, but it always comes back to missing my daughter. People have said she's in a better place. But no, the better place is to be here with us. I feel ripped off. Who would she be today? She had so many goals in her life. To be a mother, an aunt, and to marry the love of her life, Anthony Vega. Her dream was to be a veterinarian. Her life dreams were all taken. Michelle wasn't just my daughter. She was my best friend. This is my life now, my family's life. Michelle is missed so much every single day. I walk past Michelle's pictures in the house with blinders on because it's too hard. It's too much. I will never be the same. My family will never be the same. I wish that my grandchildren would have gotten to know her. But unfortunately, Michelle is only in pictures and stories that we tell about her.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, very much.
The state calls Amber Spike.
Please step to the podium, speak into the microphone, stay facing forward, please.
Amber, can you please state your name for the record?
Amber Spike.
And are you related to one of the victims in this case?
Yes, I'm Michelle Nathan's sister.
Have you prepared a victim impact statement in order to express your loss to this jury?
Yes, ma'am.
Please read your statement at this time.
Good afternoon. My name is Amber Spike, Michelle Nathan's sister. Michelle was not only my sister, but my best friend. She was such a happy and outgoing person, and there was never a day that went by that she didn't make us laugh. 20 years ago on August 6th, our lives changed forever. I remember it like it was yesterday. As my mother and I always did, we went to get breakfast at Burger King where my sister worked, only to find out that someone in her house had passed away. Never in our minds did we think that all of her friends were murdered. When we received the news, we immediately rushed over to her home to find the crime scene tape and police everywhere. Life stopped in that exact moment and hasn't been the same since. Just weeks before this, we were together celebrating my baby shower. Michelle was so excited to be an aunt. We talked about all the things we would do together with my daughter. She unfortunately never got to meet her niece, who was named after her, Emily Michelle. A piece of us left that day, a piece of our hearts that is yet to be put back together. Michelle was a light. She lit up every room she entered. She loved to tell jokes and make everybody laugh. She was the best sister, daughter, and friend. And if you were in her circle, then you were truly blessed. She was the support system you always needed, and she loved so hard. Losing her is something my family will never recover from. A lifetime of love, companionship, and support has been taken. Having to live through this trial has surfaced not only very old memories, but extremely hard times. As I stand here today as her sister and represent Michelle's entire family of brothers, sisters, parents, nieces, and nephews, we ask that you hear our stories and memories. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And is there a letter from Stephen Nathan, Michelle's dad?
Yes.
You could please read that letter.
Is that your dad? Is that your dad as well?
My father, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Michelle Nathan was my oldest daughter, and she loved to make people laugh. She was talkative, outgoing, funny, and cared about people. At the holidays and other family events, she was an entertainer. She tried to cheer everybody up in the room who was sad. Michelle loved and was so proud of her job. She had gone into the Army, but got honorable discharge for medical reasons. She was a member of the Good Shepherd Church in Deltona. She loved the beach and loved to be with her friends. She was 19 years old when she was killed. Michelle's brother, Adam, who was 14 years old when she was killed, was so depressed and upset about his sister's murder. He was unable to think about anything else for some time. He remembers when Michelle spent the night in the hospital with him when he broke his arm and he had to spend the night. Holidays are not the same without Michelle. We miss her leading the prayer when she was at my house for Thanksgiving. The birthday of my twins is the day after Michelle was killed. And this awful memory took away the joy of their birthday. This makes me angry and sad. Michelle's smile and encouragement is missed every day of the year. I feel sad and angry that Michelle was taken away from us. She was my firstborn daughter who I loved and raised.
Thank you. And then lastly, Judge, we just have some photographs.
Thank you.
Who is that there?
That's Anthony Vega, her boyfriend.
And here?
That's my sister, Michelle. And that's all of us kids in Oklahoma. And that's me and my sister before she went into the military. And when she got her job at Burger King, that's when she got her uniform and she was showing it off. She was very excited. She got a job. And her graduation, and that's my mom. And her senior photos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The state of Florida with the rest, Judge.
Thank you very much. And I think this would be, and even though we may be concluding a little bit early today, it's been a long day. And so I'm going to go ahead and have us break for the day. And please, as I always instruct, please don't view any media, listen to anything, no independent research, no discussion amongst yourselves or anyone else. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 8:30. Thank you all very much.
We get to watch them walk out. We haven't watched them walk out before. They've never. See how tall that one man. Look how tall this guy is. This Troy guy. Look how tall. Really, Hannah? Yeah, I know. Hio knows a lot. Hio's my guardian. Exactly. My guardian of my galaxy. But look at how tall Troy is. This is what they talked about, is how Troy was so tall and Jerome was just a little bitty punk kid guy.
Right,
That he should have been able to say, no, I don't want
This doesn't have to be on the record. I just wanted to talk to the lawyers. So we have been live streaming. And so one of the concerns that I have is that we don't have anybody to turn it off during breaks. And so I just, I understand that victims' families want to have that live stream available, but I'm just concerned that I just don't have the ability to turn it off during breaks. I know I'm not always, once we think we're on break, and does anybody have any concerns? I can tell you just from my perspective, I'd feel more comfortable if, I've asked court admin that if they can give us an IT person to turn it off during breaks, but if not, I'm inclined to stop the live feed. Anything from the state?
During breaks only?
No. I don't have the ability to monitor it unless somebody from the state attorney's office wants to do that. There's just too much going on that I said to the court admin, I'm not a TV producer, so I don't have the ability to monitor that. It's happening.
Well, that was the end of that stream. I guess she said, good night, guys. Okay, so we're underwater. Okay, he'll go to bed since he walks into his bed. Anyways, so I will be here at 5 o'clock tomorrow and we'll be doing the same thing, seeing where they're at, what they're doing. Yeah, like I said, the impact statements, hearing them read them personally really gives you more of a inner feeling of what the person is feeling inside. And I think it makes a difference. I mean, I reading them off, hearing them reading off, I just didn't feel the impact. But anyway, so we'll see tomorrow what happens. And everybody have a good night. And Meat just came up here to me. He knows Mommy's fixing to get off. He's ready for his walk. What, buddy? Yeah, you ready for your walk and go outside? His ears perked up. He wants to go outside. So that means it's time for Rubber out. And yeah, William, you're such a sweet guy. We appreciate you. Anyways, all right. Meat's getting bitchy over here. He wants to go outside. So, ready? Peace. Rubber out, guys. Y'all have a great night. See y'all tomorrow.